Absolutely not. They're disgusting. Yeah. Yeah, you got the pretty girls. Yeah, thanks. I know. I know. Thank you. I know.
Hey, how is it going, everybody? Happy Tuesday. Happy Tuesday. If you are on here, hit that like button, like, share, subscribe. Y'all know the drill. And as always, be sure to support your favorite content creators if you like what is going on here. If you appreciate this content, if you appreciate what I do, the best way to show support is to, of course, like, but also show support on the super chat. I'll be sure to acknowledge all super chats, and you can also show support on Venmo, Cash App, Shay Trade. So anyways, thank you for joining me. This is very last minute. What's going on, Dark Side? Thanks for being here. So this is last minute. I was going back and forth as to whether or not I wanted to do a pre-recording, and I figured I would just do a quick live on this because there's a couple of things that I wanted to unpack that I thought would just be easier to address on live. So anyways, but you know, the title is what it is. Swirler calls out white men who swirl for being racist. I keep on running across these videos of Black women who are surprised that they experience racism when they date out. And my first thought is like, where have you been? Like, where have you been? Are you completely unaware of history? I keep on seeing these things. It's like we're like on a merry-go-round. We're going in circles, in circles, in circles, where these women are just having these revelations of like, wow, this guy slept with me, but he hates me, or wow, this guy slept with me, but he doesn't like Black people or whatever. And I'm like, duh, this happens all the time. This has been happening since the beginning of this nation. This is not anything new. So, but it's so prevalent that I'm really like, okay, there has to be a couple of things going on. Either there is just complete historical ignorance, and it's like the education system has failed these women, or they haven't been gotten the education at home, or these ladies are just, they're hard-headed and they can't learn until they bump their heads. But either way, I've said this multiple times and I will continue to say it. Just because someone wants to sleep with you, just because someone is giving you sexual attention, does not mean they respect you as a human being or respect anything about you. That needs to be crystal clear. But for some reason, the lovely ladies haven't been able to get this through their head. So I came across this video. It went viral on, I saw it trending a lot on Twitter earlier. Now I think they call it X, whatever it's called. But I saw it trending earlier. And I thought I would just break it down because, like I said, we've covered these topics off before, but the reason I like to continue to address them is because whether or not you like it or not, anytime you're talking about the relationship discourse, or anytime you're talking about relationships in the Black community, especially as it relates to Black women, you have to talk about swirling. There is no conversation about dating and mating today in the Black community if it does not include swirling, because swirling is a key component or a key desire that a lot of Black women have. I'm not saying all of them, right? And I'm not saying all of them, but let's just be honest. A lot of Black women are interested in swirling in some capacity. And so you can't talk about modern relationships today if you don't address interracial relationships, because that is something that is always on somebody's mind, or at least always on these lovely ladies' mind in some way, shape, or form. Whether it's they just got out of swirling or just got out of a relationship and now their eyes have been opened, or they're maybe feeling pressured to get into it, or they want to try something new or whatever. But some way, shape, or form, interracial relationship is usually a popular discussion among Black women because it's of interest among a lot of women. I'm not going to say all, because I know some who just are not interested. I was one of them, right? That wasn't really my thing, but it's still a really popular conversation. So we're not getting around it. This is why I always say, look, if you think you want to swirl or do all that kind of different stuff, you got to be realistic about what that actually means. And that's where I think a lot of people just go ghost, or that's where the conversation just, people tune out of the conversation, because it's like, if you really want to be realistic about what that means in today's cultural, political climate, please be aware. But those conversations aren't necessarily had, and sometimes women aren't forced to come to those real life conclusions until things are too late. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Again, guys, if you're on here, like, share, subscribe, show some love on Cash App, Super Chat. As always, support your favorite content creators. So shout out to the swirling channels that say them. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Don't even get me started on that. Okay. So, like I said, there's just a video that came up I wanted to review that I think, again, it encapsulates what we probably all know in the comments for a long time. So let me bring this up for you guys, and then we will get into it. I'm going to play it for you guys once, so you guys can just kind of hear it in its entirety, and then I'll go back and add my commentary. Oops, no, that's not it. Sorry, guys, bear with me. Okay. Wait. What is going on here? Present.
Yeah, we got to talk about this. Okay. And before y'all come at me in the comments, this is a personal testimony as someone who has dated outside of my race. Plenty, okay? A lot of y'all like what you see when you date a Black woman. You love the beauty of Black women, which I can't blame you. You love the aesthetic. You love how different we are. You love our bodies. But the problem is, a lot of y'all don't even like Black people. Yeah, let's talk about it. Bruh, where are my Black women at that have dated white men? Because y'all know exactly what the fuck I'm talking about. The Black women who have literally experienced being called the N-word by the white man that they're dating. Let's talk about white men that have literally had children by Black women, but can't stand Black people. Why do y'all do that? It honestly, I'm discombobulated, because make it make sense. Hold up, let me do some math real quick. Yeah, it's not adding up, because how you gonna date somebody and then just pretend the whole time like you really mess with them and fuck with them, and whole time you racist as hell, can't stand me? True story. I have a friend who's half white. She says her dad is a stone cold racist. When I say this white man hates it that his daughter identifies as a Black woman. Explain that to me, please. I want to know. Get in the comments and explain it to me, because y'all been doing this shit since slavery and even before then. Yeah, because we haven't forgotten. We ain't forgot. So y'all need to stop. If y'all really aren't down for Black culture and Black people, stop dating us, because it's actually very disrespectful and it's hurtful. And I'm not with it. So stop.
Okay, so like I said, I wanted to play it for you guys so you can kind of get it in its entirety before I interjected. You guys can kind of get, so now you guys understood pretty much all what she was saying. You can't make this. Oh, what's going on to me? What's going on to me? I'm sorry. Okay. So let me go back. I want to break this down. There's a lot to unpack here, but let me just start off by saying what the funny thing about this entire video to me is that, like, she's positioning this as if this is breaking news. Like, I got something to share with y'all. Like, this is something new. Like, this is something that's never gone on before. As if there's some new revelation that the Black community, Black women now need to recognize. And it's like, this has literally been going on since the beginning of this nation. Literally. Everything she described. Slave masters who at the time did not even consider Black people humans, didn't even look at Black women as humans, saw them as part, 2/3 of a human or something. Saw them as property. We're sleeping with Black women. Fully on board with the industry of slavery, fully on board with that, fully. But we're sleeping with them. So I'm like, and then she even brought it up. She's like, "Oh, we ain't forgot about slavery." I'm like, well, if you ain't forgot about slavery, then why are you dating the descendants that have benefited from that system that you supposedly don't like? Okay, let's go back. Let's just go back and break this down. Anyways, guys, if you're here, like, share, subscribe. Be sure to support me on Cash App. If you like what's going on here, if you appreciate my channel, best way to do so, Cash App, Venmo, Super Chat, I'll be sure to acknowledge. Let's go back. Okay. Let's see if I can do this again.
Yeah, we got to talk about this. And before y'all come at me in the comments, this is a personal testimony as someone who has dated outside of my race. Plenty, okay?
So let me say this. She said this is a personal testimony. I think that's an important point, and I want to show you guys why. Actually, let me show this to you guys real quick, because there's some context here, which I think is really important, because I came across this video, actually, if y'all can hear me. Bring this up. Let me bring this up. Before I go back into this, let me show this with you guys real quick. Now, I think this video was supposed to be a joke, but this video I'm about to show y'all really, I think it really demonstrates the mindset that a lot of women have today when it comes to dating outside. They're very nonchalant. They're very eyes wide shut, right? Like, just going in with completely and totally ignorant. And so I'm going to show this to you guys. It was a quick little snippet, but I think it really perfectly represents the mindset that most Black women have today when it comes to dating out. Okay, let me bring this up for you. I don't know if y'all see, but it literally says, "Ignoring my ancestors' warnings while I get dressed to go out with a new white man." Now, in the comment section, she was like, she posted, "Look, that was me years ago. That was 2018. Literally right here, the crater. It says, "This is an old story. I ain't seen a white man since 2018. So this was an old story. But you see that, ignoring my ancestors' warnings while I get dressed to go out with a new white man. Now, I don't know if this was a spoof. I don't know what this is about. But nevertheless, I think this little video right here is a perfect representation of how a lot of the ladies think when it comes to dating out. I'm going to have fun. Forget what all y'all done said. Bunk history. Bunk the warnings. Definitely don't listen to any of the men. Don't listen to them. Don't listen to any of them. I'm going to ignore all those obvious red flags. I'm going to have fun. Do me, live me." So again, I don't know if this particular video if this was like a spoof or a joke, but whether it's a joke or not, like, to me, I think a lot of women actually really have this. So this is the mindset that a lot of ladies have when they go into dating white men. Like this, again, eyes wide shut, right? Not thinking anything too deep. Racism is way back there 400 years ago. It don't impact us today, and it's all about love. This is the mindset that a lot of ladies tend to have, and I think it's largely influenced by media. Okay, so I wanted to show that with you guys for some context. Now, Let's move back to the video that we had before. Okay.
A lot of y'all like what you see when you date a black woman. You love the beauty of black women, which I can't blame you.
Okay, so real quick on this one, because this is something that I hear all the time, right? And I get it. I think black is beautiful. I think black women are beautiful, right? Sometimes I think we can kind of go a little bit overboard with this, where it's like calling ourselves goddesses and trying to put ourselves above other women, truthfully, as I think to try to deal with the insecurities a lot of us have. But anyways, yes, black is beautiful. That's true. With that said, though, other races of men still predominantly prefer their women. Even if they see black women as beautiful, even if they see them as exotic, let it be clear, other races of men, white men in particular, still prefer their women. They still prefer their Eurocentric white, whatever. They prefer that largely. Of course, we can all speak to anomalies here and there, but I'm like, largely, they like whiteness. And I'm going to show you some data in a little bit that reinforces this. But let's continue.
You love the aesthetic. You love how different we are. You love our bodies. But the problem is a lot of y'all don't even like black people. Yeah, let's talk about it.
Again, she's saying that like this is something new. First of all, if you don't like if a person that you're dating doesn't like your race, don't date them. Don't do that. Let's just start there. Secondly, you would hope, and this is where I think, God, not having, whether it be a strong relationship with elders or not having elders in your life that are speaking into who can keep it real that you respect. But either way, like there's clearly a disconnect between what, this woman is saying, the revelation she had to come to on her own, versus being like, all the women in generations before you should have known this. If you'd have had a grandmama, if you'd have had an auntie, somebody, they could have told you, they could have put you up on game on what this thing is like. These dudes will sleep with you, but they don't necessarily value you. And of course, we all know that we're not saying it's everybody, but it's like, you can't act like this prejudice, all these different preferences, whatever it may be, you can't act like that doesn't exist. And what she's saying to me, again, already the thing that stood out to me was like, she's acting like these are all new revelations. Like this is all something hecka new. Like she's brand new to this stuff. And it's like, this stuff has been going on for hundreds of years. Did you not have somebody in your life to tell you, to warn you, to say, hey, if you're going to do this, be aware, be mindful, know what to look out for, or don't be surprised if this happens. Like, did you not have that conversation? Or did you have those conversations and you ignored them? Like the first video I showed you of the girl who was dancing, who was like, I'm ignoring my ancestors, ignoring their warning signs. But it's like, how does a grown woman, a black woman at that, who's grown up in a black body, in a black experience, how does she just now as an adult come to the conclusion that a person will date you and sleep with you but not respect you or your people? Like, how is this a new revelation? How did you not know that coming up? Where is the disconnect? And that's something to me that always, to this day, I can't say I have the answer, but I'm really just like, why are there so many women who are ignorant of this? Or to your point, is it really willful? Is it really, really, really willful ignorance? I think I saw that earlier in the comments. It's like, nah, they willfully ignorant. Let's continue. Yeah, we'll see.
Bro, where are my black women at that have dated white men? Because y'all know exactly what the fuck I'm talking about. The black women who have literally experienced being called the N-word by the white man that they're dating.
Why in the hell are you dating a man that's calling you the N-word? Sorry. I'm like, don't be... I mean, you know what I like about these videos is that they are demonstrating what we've all known to be true for a long time. What a lot of men have complained about for quite some time. They are clearly demonstrated what's been hid in the dark for a long time. We are all, look, there's so much scrutiny on black men being colorist and black men, chasing Becky and wanting the white woman. I mean, there's literally a documented history of black men being deleted because of their supposed thirst for white women, right? I mean, a lot of them are false accusations, but so that history is there. And so there's a comfort in just assuming that black men are just, trying to, black men are self-hating. People are comfortable saying that, but there's still this lack of comfort over the idea that black women, and yes, black women in America, can also be self-hating. And another thing that I see a lot is that anytime there's these women out here who are talking about divesting or swirling, or talked about their negative experiences with white guys that they dated who ended up being racist or whatever it may be, there's sometimes there's tendency to want to assume that they are immigrants or that they are from other nations or countries. And I'm like, I think that's incredibly dangerous, because while that certainly does exist in other nations, we can't pretend like the history, right, in this nation hasn't also traumatized women to the point to where they got Miss Anne syndrome. Miss Anne syndrome is something that is unique to the African American experience. Okay, that's something that's unique to us. There are Black American women born and bred, right, who are very much tracking down this line of swirling, divesting. Like, it's not just immigrants doing this. It's not just people from the Caribbean or Africa or whatever. These are some women born and bred in America with grandparents and great grandparents, whatever, from America, who are very much still promoting this ideology because they have self-hatred. So sometimes I see that too, and I'm like, that's dangerous if we act like this is just coming from outside, because then we're not able to address some of the ideas that are clearly coming from inside. If you think of Black feminism as a whole, Black feminism wasn't just Black immigrants coming in here and just starting stuff. Those were, when you call it Black African American, foundation of Black American, whatever, those are Black women in this land, descendants of slaves, who got dragged into that movement or decided to partner with that movement. And we know that a big tenet of Black feminism is thirsting after white men. I mean, they won't say that, right? They're not going to say that openly. But if you read some of the different literature and you see some of the different thought leaders in that space, and you actually look at who they dated, then we obviously know that there is a lot of sympathy towards white men. So this is something that impacts Black women, period, where there's been a history of colonialism or whatever. So again, I just wanted to say that, because I know that can also get to the point where you're now gaslighting Black men in America who grew up with women around them, who grew up with women in their street, in their block, in their house, who were trafficking in this self-hating idea. And they'd be like, nah, she ain't from Africa. That woman grew up in my household and she don't like herself. Because that mindset, that self-hating ideology has been here for some time. But what we're seeing now, like I said, we see now these future generations. It's like, I don't know if it's either, again, a lack of understanding, a lack of ignorance, like them not being told, elders not sitting down with them and being like, hey, here's the reality. I don't know what it is. But nevertheless, there's this entire generation of Black women who act so brand new when it comes to their desire to date and marry out. And sometimes it's not until they hit their head that they wake up. And at that point, sometimes it can be too late. You maybe got a baby or two. You got a few broken hearts, and it just makes it a lot more difficult. But either way, this is something that clearly is still impacting Black women today. And as I said before, you cannot talk about dating and relationships today in Black America without including swirling, because Black women, by and large, still are interested in swirling. Let's continue this. Okay.
Let's talk about white men that have literally had children by Black women, but can't stand Black people.
Okay, so let me turn your attention to this. I know some of you guys mentioned some studies. Yes. For some context, because y'all know that I like to always provide sources as much as possible, so I'm not just trafficking off of my feelings. Let me turn your attention now real quick to some stats that y'all can use for some context. Again, this is from a book I have referenced multiple times, The Dating Divide, which is a book that looks at dating and relationships today. It's looked at specifically online dating, and it looked like how different genders and races interacted online when they were looking at dating preferences, what they wanted, who they interacted with, who they talked with versus who they ignored. So here were some of the findings that the data had, not only just from online, but also from different interviews that they had with the people who were involved in the study. Some of the different findings found that Black, Asian, and Latina women responded more to white men than men of their own race. Again, if you look at this figure, what this figure is showing is this black line right here is how often how often women were responding to their own race. And then any of the findings beyond this black line is showing you how often they responded to other races of men. So you see how it is for Asian, you see how it is Black, Latino, but make a long story short, all races of women have a preference, responded first and foremost to white men, and then secondarily to men of their own race. Again, that's an important fact to have, because when these Black women are now coming to the conversation and being disrespected, they have to remember that these men of other races, white men by and large, know that they are wanted. They know intrinsically, many of them, that they are highly desired. The ones who are doing well, right? They know that they're highly desired. So already they're coming in with that expectation. Already they're coming in with whether it be a chip on the shoulder, whatever it may be, but they have that expectation. Let me continue with this. Now, as I mentioned, so there's these Black, Asian, and Latino women. They respond more to white men than any other race of men, right? So they prefer white men first, and then secondarily, they prefer men of their own race. But however, white men still prefer their women. And here's an expert here. It says, among all the racial preferences we find in online dating, none is stronger than whites' preferences for whites. Both white men and white women actively seek each other out. So when we're not online trying to save face, when we're not, in the real world talking to people, trying to make sure that we're not hurting anybody's feelings, when people are actually choosing what they want anonymously, behind closed doors, by and large, white men are still primarily looking for white women. That is an important component to keep, right? And then continued, white men consistently choose Black women last compared to other races. Here's some other experts. It says even when you factor in, weight, right? And so it was comparing a slim fit Black woman versus an overweight white woman. And they show even in those components, because we know white men generally are tend to not be as open towards bigger bodies. Even in the case of a slim Black woman compared to an overweight white woman, white men were still more likely to choose the overweight white woman over the slim Black woman. Right. Then there's other cases here. It says anti-Blackness far well outweighs his preference. White men are more likely to send messages to overweight white, Asian, and Latino women than they are to Black women who are of average size. So again, this is breaking down the preferences. It says thus anti-Blackness operates in conjunction with other sorting mechanisms in a way that results in Black daters experiencing compounded racialized disadvantage. Again, this was recently published, I think last year or 2 years ago. Recent data from online studies also include in-personal interviews showing that despite what we're hearing and seeing in the different television shows and the series and the TikTok swirler couples and all that kind of different stuff, behind closed doors, we actually see what's going on. That's what's going on. Okay, so I want to just add that for some context. Let's continue.
Why do y'all do that? It honestly, I'm discombobulated because make it make sense. Hold up. Let me do some math real quick. Yeah, it's not adding up. Because how you gonna date somebody and then just pretend the whole time like you really mess with them and fuck with them, and whole time you racist as hell, can't stand me? True story. I have a friend who's half white. She says her dad is a stone cold racist. When I say this white man hates it that his daughter identifies as a black woman. Explain that to me. Please. I want to know. Get in the comments and explain it to me. Because y'all been doing this shit since slavery and even before then.
So again, to my point, if she knows this, then why are you surprised? If you know that this has been going on, that this is consistent with history, based upon her own volition, based on what she just said, she's like, y'all been doing this since slavery. Well, when somebody shows you who they are, believe them. So like at this point, I don't really know what to say to that. Like if a person clearly shows that they know what they're doing, but then they get the consequences associated with what they've done, I don't know what you're supposed to do. Again, if somebody shows you who they are, believe them. You're asking, well, why are they doing this? How many times have I broken this down? Let me remind you of Thomas Jefferson's math equation to breed out black folks. Thomas Jefferson, one of the founding fathers. And sometimes they like to romanticize his relationship with, what was it? The Sally Jennings, I think her name was, or Sally Hemings. His young black slave who he had a sexual relationship with. And remember, this equation is literally how through interracial mixing and through breeding and through having babies over time, you will systematically breed out blackness. He literally invented this equation. And so when I say that there's obviously a history of people not liking black people, and in some cases actually using interracial relationships as a means and method of breeding out blackness, we literally have historical evidence of this. You can find this in the National Archives. Like I didn't have to pull this up. This is like readily available. The first page of Google, folks. Literally a math equation showing you how if you have babies with the different black women, eventually they won't be so black. They'll be a mulatto, and after mulatto, then they may become an octoroon. And then after octoroon, if they continue to mix, then eventually there'll be no blackness. Like this is literally there for you guys to see. So again, when you say, oh, well, how could he sleep and even have a baby with somebody, but then not like black people? What? This is not, when somebody shows you who they are, believe them. This has been clearly available for people to see. Like I said, on the first page of Google, this is not hard to find. So yes, there are people out there who, in not liking black people, will sleep with black people, will interracially mix and have babies with black people as a way to help eventually breed them out, in the hopes that eventually they'll be bred out. Like there are people who consistently do that. And so this is how and why you can have people who were documented in different, hate groups who practice anti-blackness. This is how you can have people who literally do that, who will have a girlfriend on the side, or will have a baby mama, or who will have black woman, maybe even a black wife, literally as a way to practice one of the ethics of the founding fathers of America, literally. So this is not inconsistent. Interracial mixing and dating is not necessarily inconsistent with white supremacy or inconsistent, right? Like it's all connected. So again, this is the conversations I wish were had with the lovely ladies who wanted to mix, date, breed out. Of course, I'm not saying everybody has the intention of doing just this. There are people out there who they fall in love with somebody of the other race and it's genuine and they love each other. That absolutely happens. And there are also people out there who are devious and who hate what you stand for and the people that you come from. And it's evident. But part of the responsibility as women, especially as black women, is to be clear and understand who you are, how society perceives you, and to be honest about that. And you also can't be surprised in this current climate. Like there's some ladies who like to pretend like they act like in one moment they're pro-black, but then in another moment they want to put their blackness way in the back burner and think that they're going to get special treatment. And it's like, no, everybody's going to have their ninja moment in one way, shape, or form. Even if you end up with somebody who genuinely loves you and is not racist and is genuinely down for the cause, whatever, likely he got a cousin or a mom or a brother or a father or a grandparent. There's somebody or some bodies in their family who you're going to have to contend with who don't like you because you're Black. That just comes with the territory. This is the cultural climate we live in. So it's like, it's part of your responsibility as a Black woman to fully understand this. And then hopefully teach your other daughter, other people this. I was talking to one of my young cousins. She's like 20, 21. And she was telling me about this dude she was talking to, and I had to tell her, I was like, do you understand how other cultures perceive Black people? And she was kind of surprised. And I was like, yes, this still happens. They may be nice to you. These dudes may sleep with you. They may give you the time of day. But if he's being funny style, and if you feel like you're in a situationship, be very, very, very leery of that. Because some people just see you as a hit it and quit it, unfortunately. Like, you have to be aware of that. That is your responsibility. Thank you, Kevin C, for the super sticker. Guys, here, if you like what's going on, like, share, subscribe, show love on the Cash App, super chat. But this is the reality. This is the reality. So, okay, I think we're almost done with this one. But to her point, how could somebody sleep and even have a baby with a Black woman and be racist? Well, Thomas Jefferson clearly articulates in his math equation how that is possible. Let's continue.
Yeah, because we haven't forgotten. We ain't forgot. So y'all need to stop. If y'all really aren't down for Black culture and Black people, stop dating us. Because it's actually very disrespectful and it's hurtful.
I like to say this. You can't necessarily control what another person does, but you can control how you behave yourself, how you perceive. So instead, in my opinion, instead of trying to tell the entirety of white men how to behave themselves and what they should do, I think it's more appropriate to direct that intention to yourself and say, okay, look, I'm not going to put myself in a situation where I could be taken advantage of in that way. Because like I said, look, we can all make demands of people, but people are not necessarily obliged to live up to those demands. What we can do, however, is create boundaries that are best for us so that we can protect ourselves. So in my opinion, if you are sick and tired of dealing with dudes who say that they like Black people, but are actually inwardly racist, well, then don't date them. Just don't date them. Either vet a lot more strongly or just don't deal with them, period. But trying to tell white dudes, y'all, you need to stop being racist and then date us. Like, I don't know I don't know if they're listening. I doubt they are. I doubt they are. Let's continue.
And I'm not with it. So stop.
Right. You said you're dating. Right. So it's like, you're dating them. So nobody takes it seriously. If you are dating a man and you're telling him not to date you, well, that's in your hands, honey. Like, if you're the one who's upset, then you have the power to walk away. So, I mean, it is what it is. I saw this trending on Twitter. Obviously, I think there's a lot of problems with this entire conversation, because if a Black woman has to go through all of these broken relationships to come to the conclusion that there are racist guys out there who will sleep with you, that's really sad. I'm like, that is a problem. Like, you should have known that before you even got into the situation. And if women have to get their heart broken or get their back broken out, right, or end up with a baby or two to finally come to the conclusion that maybe some of these dudes don't really like you and they don't like your race, like, then what's going on? Like, how are you not understanding that early on? And this is where I wonder, is it media influence? Is it just because these women are just so impressionable and they are so influenced by the media? Is it that their parents are telling them but they don't listen? Or is it that their parents or their mothers, because I'm sure a lot of these women are, have single mothers. Is it that these women just aren't telling them? They're not giving them the information. Like, I don't know, but clearly there's a disconnect here, because this conversation wouldn't have happened 60, 70 years ago. Or this wouldn't have happened in my grandmother's era. They would have been like, duh, if you dating a white man, you made a, like, there's no way somebody in my grandmother's era is being surprised if they decide to try to date outside of the race that they might experience racism. There is no way anybody would be surprised at that. So fast forward, the fact that this is like a thing, to me shows that there's a huge disconnect. Huge disconnect. Okay. Again, guys, if you're here, like, share, subscribe. I think there is one other. So she actually had a part 2 to this that I thought was interesting, because in this video,
all right, y'all asked,
for whatever reason, she decides to now, I think, address white women. And y'all already know that the history between Black women and white women is contentious. So let me just play this for y'all, and then we can break it down.
For a part 2, so let's get into it. Because on the flip side, y'all not safe. But before I get into white women that date Black men, first I gotta address something from the last video. I cannot stand it when Black women think that because they are dating a white man, that makes them better, or that they have something better, because you don't. So I'm gonna nip that in the bud right now. I do date outside my race, but when I date a white man, I don't think, ooh, I got something better. You know, I'm better than other Black women because I'm walking around with a white man and they're not. I can't stand that shit. So stop talking.
Okay, y'all, real quick. I got 150 on here and only 106 likes. So I'm gonna need y'all to get those likes up. I'm also gonna need y'all to send some love on the super chat, Cash App before I continue. Y'all treat me right now. If you say you love me, treat me right. So let's go on a little quick break, and y'all do what y'all gotta do. Okay, guys. Let's see how many we got. Okay. Okay, I just need 20 more. So we're going to have to do part 2, guys. Good. Likes up. Like, share, subscribe. Y'all know the drill. Also show some love on Cash App, Super Chat, all that drill. And let's support your favorite content creators, folks. Okay, so let's continue.
Talking about, oh, white men are better than Black men. They have better financial stability. They treat you better. Because, honey, let me tell you, a lot of them don't got none of that. All right, now let's get into it. So, white women, racist white women that date Black men. Yeah, y'all not safe. Because I know it goes both ways. And I think what disgusts me the most about it is because women have the ability to procreate. Y'all literally will hunt down Black men only because you want mixed children.
So it's interesting that she says that, because from my understanding and my research, this is a lot more prevalent among Black women. This is something that Black women specifically do, practice colorism, facilitate colorism, because they think by creating lighter babies, by assimilating the white culture, that is going to help them get a better social standing. And again, I didn't just make this up. I've talked about this in previous videos, but if you look at some of the different recent data, this is what it actually alluded to in the dating divide, where it looked at it did actually look at a couple of families in Latin America, and it looked at some of like the Afro Latinos, and then it was just looking at colorism within the context of the USA, and how there was this preference that Black women, African women across the Caribbean had for whiteness. And one of the theories was because they believed that it would give them a better social standing, perhaps give them access to better wealth, and ultimately an easier life. And so it's funny that she's saying that white women are really interested in creating mixed babies, when this is literally what I see Black women doing all the time. And I think this is partially maybe why they're so conscious of it, and why they're so hypersensitive to it, because you're generally sensitive to something that you've experienced or that's something that you're into. And I'm like, the people that we hear the complaining about the most when it comes to colorism is Black women. It's certainly not white women, right? And the research I just showed you earlier in this video, white people by and large are the most interested in maintaining whiteness, white men and white women. So while I'm sure there are white women out there who maybe want a few mixed babies for whatever reason, that is not a tenet of white culture. That would be like an offshoot. That would be an anomaly, but that's not common in white culture. But in Black culture, we do know colorism is a thing, and we do know that practicing colorism historically has been used as a way for Black people to try to assimilate easier, or as a way to, in hopes, get access to more wealth and resources. So this is something that Black people, Black women in particular, definitely do. So I find it interesting that she is calling white women out for doing something that we are largely guilty for as a collective. Let's continue.
Let me say that again. A lot of y'all just want mixed babies because y'all think that mixed babies are so cute.
Again, Black women. This is exactly what I'm trying to think of a white woman that I know off the top of my head who said that she wanted mixed babies. I'm sure they exist. I can't think of one, but I can assure you a Black woman who practiced colorism and talked about good hair, good eyes, all that.
Now let's get deep with it though, because here's what's funny. A lot of white women can't stand not only Black people, but they really can't stand Black women. Why? Because we have features that they don't. So y'all hate us for that, but then you want to go and have Black babies so that you can produce something that has our features.
Again, I would be more inclined to believe this if Black women were not always wearing the hair of white women on their head, or Indian women or Brazilian women. I think I'd be a lot more inclined to really believe that these white women are really envious of Black women if Black women were not consistently trying to change their hair. And I think that's where it's like it's really kind of hard to point a finger when you're guilty of doing the things that you claim the other women are doing. And this is, no disrespect for her, but like, she literally has a weave on. Her hair is looking like Becky. And so that's why I'm like, a white woman is going to look at that probably and just roll her eyes and be like, so you're judging me for getting Botox while you have a weave? You can't even wear your own hair? And now this gets into a conversation of, okay, is this really a racial thing, or is this just more about beauty trends? Because, okay, you can say that, okay, well, white women are trying to get Botox and BBLs. Okay, granted, fine. Let's just assume that's true. But Black women are also getting weaves, okay, and they're contouring their nose and getting nose jobs and different things to try to make them a little bit more angular. It's like Black women are also doing things. So is that really an issue of, oh, they want to look more Black, or is it just an issue of women just trying to fall into trends, right? So that, I don't know, that's where it could get really, really confusing, but let's continue.
And I have personally experienced this more so as a child, and I'm gonna make another video talking about that, because I got a lot to say about the ways in which white women hate black women, but then be the first ones to run to the doctor for lip injections and ass injections and all this other shit to
just like black women be the first ones to go get weaves and buy 100% virgin Brazilian weaves and in Indian weaves and dye their hair blonde and get, like I said, nose jobs or do contouring and different things to make their features look more angular and smaller. So this is again where it can really become tit for tat. Skin bleaching anyone?
look like us. But anyways, I see a whole lot of white women on here that are literally becoming rich and monetizing their black children. I know y'all seen it. All these.
You know what's so funny to me? She says white women getting rich off of their black children. It's so funny to me how blackness changes based upon what's convenient. Because a lot of women who are here talking about colorism will not want to claim a mixed woman as black. They're going to want to claim that mixed woman as a preference. Or they're going to say she ain't black, she's biracial. So in a certain context, mixed women aren't black. But when it comes to a white woman and her kids, oh, she has black kids. And that's where, to me, it's really interesting how, and actually this in the black culture, how blackness can really be, thank you, Malarkey. Thank you for showing support. How blackness can really be, it changed based upon the conversation, based upon what's convenient. When at the end of the day, we can bicker and argue all we want. At the end of the day, the popo's going to tell you who's black or not. Okay, they're going to be the ones who's going to identify, right? There's people in positions of power and authority are going to be the ones to determine, because blackness was largely, it was put on, well, at least out here in America, right? I don't want to get too far in the historical diatribe, but largely in America, we know a lot of these terms are socio-political, economic terms, and that blackness was put on us. So it's like, because we didn't necessarily create that system, we can talk about it all you want, but we don't maintain it. But anyways, my bigger point, I've noticed this, how in one instance, okay, she's a preference, but when she needs to be black, she's black. Like Meghan Markle, right? She's a preference to all the colorist queens. But when it comes to, oh, we have a black woman dating a white prince or a white king or whatever, oh, now she's black. So yeah, so y'all see how these things change based upon what's convenient. Shout out to Malarkey. It says, morning, Sister Shay, adding some British pennies and pounds to the collection pot. Hope it will encourage others to support their favorite content creators with research and hard work. I appreciate it, guys. And for those of you guys who love me, the best way to show support and love is to actually hit the Cash App or Venmo, because this is a community ran and funded enterprise. So that is the best way to show love and support. I appreciate all the I love yous in the text, in the comments I do, but the best way to do so is Cash App, Venmo. And as always, I wish you to acknowledge you. So thank you, Malarkey, for being consistent and consistently showing support and for coming through on, I think it's Wednesday morning for you. So thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And let's make sure I get you the... Okay, so on to the next. But yeah, so going back to what I was saying before about blackness, it be changing. I notice the term changes based upon what's convenient. And we're seeing that in this instance of this lovely lady here.
White women posting pictures of their mixed babies, becoming famous off of it. Now they driving Range Rovers and building a new house and, you know, all this other shit. Literally monetizing their black babies. I'm gonna need y'all to get in the comments. Another thing I know that black or white women and white men do is they know that they racist ass daddy and mama would be just irate if they ever brought home a black person. And so they do it to get back at their parents or their racist
That's
family.
True. That happens.
So we have women that they want to get back at their parents. They want mixed babies. Or we've got the ones we all know that go after athletes, like the woman my dad is married to.
Uh-oh. Oh, I didn't get this far in the video. She said like the woman my dad is into. So there's a little saltiness there. I mean, what she's saying, that does happen. There are those cases where there's some women who want mixed babies. I'm sure that happens. There are women out there who want to get back at their parents. I'm sure that happens. What I would argue there was that is clearly not a that's not like a big trend, from my understanding. And if it is, it's not happening as much as it is in the Black community. We know Black women largely practice colorism, which is why I think one of the reasons it's not, how do I put it? Which is why they're so sensitive to it, because they practice it, because it's something that they really do and something that they really feel. And we have evidence behind this. I just showed this to y'all earlier in the live, where it's when we get offline and we get off of this whole Black power, I'm pro black queen, whatever. If we get off the internet and all the facade that people put on, when we look at what they're doing behind closed doors and their preferences, it is all races of women, including Black women, who primarily have a preference first to white men and then secondarily to their men. And again, it really, some of the theories behind it, but one of the major theory is that it's just because of what they perceive to be better social standing and having basically more money. So I don't think it's necessarily because these women love whiteness per se, as much as it is that they see whiteness as more associated with wealth, social status, and just an overall a better life. But this is right. This is all races, including Black women. So what she's saying about them wanting the mixed babies and light-skinned babies, this is something that Black women have done and are doing, and this has been documented. I shared excerpts from a book. I think I did this in my video I posted yesterday, of different Black women literally talking about grandmothers who told them, marry a blonde dude, make sure you marry a white guy because you're too Black and we want to make sure that we better the race. Y'all remember Matthew Knowles when he said his mama told him to marry a white girl or marry somebody light-skinned because he was too dark? Like, we all know examples of this. And like I said, this is not just in the Caribbean, Africa. This is out here in the States. So Black women, again, have I'm not saying all, right? But a tenet, a component in our culture is that there are those among us who do facilitate colorism, specifically because we want to assimilate, and we think in assimilating, we believe that our offspring or our families will eventually have a better, easier life. And so we look to try to marry white. We look to try to marry light. We look to try to create lighter skinned babies. We're happy that we have babies that have green eyes, right? Or that have lighter skin, or that have the light. Like, we're happy with that. We celebrate that. I even mentioned Keke Palmer. I said, y'all notice how Keke Palmer, everybody's over here being big mad about her, I think now ex-boyfriend, saying something about her outfit. But nobody will ever look at Keke Palmer and call her a colorist, although she dated a white dude and then created a baby with a light-skinned, ethnically ambiguous Black guy. And look, I'm not mad at it. I'm like, I don't have a problem with somebody having a preference. But what I'm saying is that had that been a Black man, have a Black man date a white woman and then go create a baby with an ethnically ambiguous preference and see if he wouldn't be canceled and called all kinds of colorists. I mean, Chris Brown still, years later, he didn't have dark-skinned women in his videos. He didn't done stuff with Kelly Rowland, Ciara, and he still can't get past the colorist claims. Still, with all the different women he's had in the music video, he still can't get past it. They're still canceling him years later. So what I'm saying is that this stuff isn't consistent. And I think there's definitely a big willingness to want to point this out to other people. But one of the reasons these colorist claims are not taken seriously, I think from Black men, from other races of women in general, is because there's unwillingness to really sit with how we ourselves practice it. And we do it a lot. So shout out to you, Dr. Thunder. It says here to support you, Shay. Please keep up the good work. Be encouraged. You're making a difference. Thank you, Dr. Thunder. I appreciate that. Thank you for being a member too. Really appreciate it. And shout out to you, Dominique Logan, with the 20. Thank all of you guys for the love and support. I really appreciate it. Like I said, what we do here, this is a community red sponsored enterprise. So I certainly appreciate it. Thank you all. Thank you, everybody. Had to get my unk in there. Okay, so let's continue. I think we're almost done with this one.
Go after rich athletes when we know damn well you wouldn't be giving this man the time of day if his bank account didn't look like that.
Okay, and she said, we already know you wouldn't be giving him the time of day if his bank account didn't look like that. She's not lying. But you mean to tell me Black women are about to sit up here and give it to the dude the time of day if they ain't got no money? Please tell me a race of women who are knocking down the door to try to date broke men. Please name a race or group of women out there that exist that are going out of their way to specifically date and marry broke men. Can y'all tell me in the comment section, do they exist? Can y'all tell me in the comment section, do y'all know a group of women who are knocking down the door to date broke men? She over here saying, oh, white women, y'all going for the Black men just because they got money. Well, Black women do that too. Black women are doing the exact same thing. Women out there are doing the exact same thing. They are practicing. They are proud capitalists, proud of it, proud hypergamist, proud classist. They all do it. So what I'm saying is, while I can't necessarily say that the points that she's raising are wrong, yes, there are definitely instances of white women who want to have mixed babies and white women who are just trying to get back at their parents. All of that exists. What I'm saying is that everything she just said can apply to Black women and arguably more so. Talking about how white women envy Black women looks because they get Botox and BBLs, while Black women also get BBLs, and also they get weaves, and also they get nose jobs, and also they do contouring and skin bleaching to try to look whiter. So all women do it. Talking about, oh, how white women go after the athletes, go after the successful Black men for their money. And I'm like, Black women don't? There aren't hypergamy experts out there? Black women aren't expanding their options to the six figure men? Like, what? All women are doing this. This is my point. So this is why I think some of these complaints, while they may seem valid and they have an element of truth to them, what I'm saying is that I think Black women, when we are found to be hypocrites and when we ourselves are inconsistent in these areas, nobody listens to us. You're a Black woman going online, surprised that white men are racist to you. I'm like, nobody's taking anything you say seriously at that point. If you really went online and are just like, breaking news, white guys can be racist. Like, if this is the revelation you have to share with the world, then there's going to be a large portion of the population that is not listening to you. Because I'm like, if you're just now coming to this revelation, I'm over there. Let's continue. Okay.
So get in the comments, because I want to know. Make it make sense, because y'all not safe at all. And Lord, if I hear one more story about a white woman who has called her mixed children the N-word, that right there is a damn shame.
You know what? Here's where, first of all, I don't disagree. I don't think you should be calling your children the N-word. The problem is, Black women do it too. And I know we want to say, well, it means something different when it's of your own race. And I get it, right? There's historical context to that. But Black women do call their kids N-words, and much worse. I mean, listen, my mama taught in the, she teacher K through 12 for decades. And she literally talked about, she worked in the inner city. She worked in predominantly all white areas. She worked in mixed areas. She worked in all kind of areas. And she talked about how when she worked in the inner city in predominantly all Black places, how these kids were not used to responding to the kindness. She used to have to yell and act all kinds of fools to get them to do things because they weren't used to being talked nice to. You see the parents, the mamas picking them up, calling them out their names, cussing at them. These little kids, little babies, barely saying their ABCs, getting cussed at, getting called all kinds of names, getting disrespected from their elders. And then they get used to that disrespect. And so now they don't know how to respond to they only know how to respond if you yell at them, if you treat them rude. That's sad. But what I'm saying is, again, I'm not making excuses for nobody who's going to call their kids the N-word. I think that's completely and totally unacceptable, especially if you were of another race and you're you have a mixed kid, because you should be sensitive to their experience. With that said, however, like I said, Black women do it too. And unfortunately, we are not known to be the most kind and generous to our children. And this is where I say these kinds of conversations, while there are good points, nobody really takes us seriously when they clearly look at us and see that in the very areas we're complaining about and we're trying to point the finger at, we're doing the same things, if not worse. And that's what I really got out of these videos. This is no shade to her. I think she definitely started some conversations, which is why I wanted to bring this up. But it raises some good points. How do we today in 2023, with it, which all has happened, even in the last couple of years, how are there still so many Black women who are hella brand new about what happens when they date out? Like, super surprised about the fact that racism still exists. But you're supposedly a Black woman or Black women, just as a collective, are supposedly so woke and leading the community and have made all these changes and progress for the community, but y'all act so surprised and so confused when a dude treats you racist. Like, what is going on? Like, why is there this disconnect? Right? And then secondly, I know there's this beef between Black women and white women. Black women saying these white women, they take our men. They want to be like us. They want to steal our beauty. They disrespect us, whatever. And I'm like, look, yeah, there's definitely some truth to that. But unfortunately, we don't really have legs to stand on when we are doing the exact same things we are accusing these white women of. And unfortunately, that's what I think has happened and is happening. No, right. Facts right here. Most white people aren't prepared to have children that look nothing like them. Facts. Absolutely facts. And this has been verified by evidence. This isn't just like Shay just sitting up here making stuff up and she don't like white folks. It's like, no, ain't got nothing to do with that. I see nothing wrong with the person having a preference. I see nothing wrong with a white guy being like, I actually just want a kid that looks like me. I want a kid with blonde hair or dirty blonde hair or strawberry blonde hair and green eyes. I see nothing wrong with that. But I'm like, you can't be surprised. And this is what the data is showing us. This is exactly the data is showing us. So again, a person will sleep with you. I mean, men in general, a lot of men in general will just sit down there and sleep with you just because, of just free opportunity. Just this depending upon the character of the man. But that does not mean that there is respect, and that does not mean that there is a long-term plan of him wifing you up, giving you his last name, y'all sharing bank accounts. He's putting you on the will. He's putting you on life insurance. Now you're literally birthing his children, carrying his seed. Like, that's a whole other responsibility. And most men aren't just running to that. And then especially now, and the era where there is already so much tension between the genders. There's so much tension between men and women, right? You got the manosphere. And now I'm not talking about you got the black manosphere, but you got the manosphere period, which is largely made up of white men who are openly expressing their disinterest and their discontentment with their women. And so it's like already in this time where there's tension in relationships, couple that with all the other different challenges. And it's like, you can't be surprised when you run into challenges whenever you try to date and marry out. Also, another side note, which I don't know that women are fully aware of or like to be aware of or privy to, but men are watching. So if there is a reputation that Black women don't know how to get along with their own men, if that reputation exists and other communities are seeing and spotting this, and Black women have to contend with the reputation of being hard to deal with, having bad attitudes, being hypermasculine, being too strong, whatever it may be, being combative. If that reputation already exists, do you think men of other races are going to just be welcoming you with open arms when they see that you can't even get along with the men of your own race? If you can't get along with the men of your own race, do you think they believe that you're going to be able to easily integrate into their race? Again, if you can't get along with the men of your own community, how are you going to be able to get along with the men of outside communities, of foreign communities, of communities that you're not used to? How's that going to work? If you can't even integrate into a space that you're from, how are you going to be able to integrate into a space that you are not from? You know what I mean? And so I don't think women understand how sometimes the reputation of who they are perceives them and how other men are looking through that lens. And this is now where you're looking at preconceived notions, you're looking at bias, subconscious bias, whatever. We can pretend like that stuff doesn't exist. And people may talk a good talk to try to not offend, but in people's hearts and their consciousness, they do exist and they are there. And unfortunately, this is one of the things that the lovely ladies have to contend with, that there is not necessarily the best reputation that we have. We don't have a reputation as a collective of being easy to deal with. A lot of men are just like, even if they were attracted to Black women, even if they did see them as viable options, they may be thinking, oh, well, what about her attitude? What about this? Is she going to be combative? Is she going to be strong? They're already coming in with that because of what they perceive, because of what they see, because of who they've talked to. You act like white men don't talk to Black men. They don't. Like, they talk to these men of other races, they talk, they converse, they talk about their experiences with their women. So again, this is something else that I don't know that women are fully aware of, how their reputation and their relationship skills or lack thereof, when they do not work well inside their community, how it can severely sever any success in outside communities. There is a connection. There really is. So anyways, that is what I wanted to unpack. That's what I wanted to unpack. These stories continue to come up because you cannot talk about dating and relationship today, and you cannot talk about Black love today, Black woman in love today, if you don't include swirling, if you don't include interracial relationships, because like it or not, Black women are largely interested in swirling. They are. I didn't just make this up. If you look at the data, if you look at the trends, it is clearly there. And for those of you who aren't interested, this doesn't apply to you, great. Like, do you have fun, live your life? I'm all for it, seriously, because I know that's not everyone. But for those who it is, and you know who you are, you got to be honest about what that means. It means a couple of things. So anyways, that is what I got. I do appreciate you guys for being here. I thought I saw Mr. Z. Are you here? I thought I saw you stop through, but I don't remember. Let me know in the comment section. Do you guys want me to open up the call lines? Let me know if you want to open up the call lines. If I could get 5 more contributions, then I will gladly open up the call lines and we will keep this stuff going. If I could just get 5 more super chats or cash apps, I'll open up the call lines and we can go from there. Mr. Z, let me know if you're still hanging out in the chat, because I think I saw you wanted to call up, but I'm not sure. So we're going a quick break. And if you guys want me to open up the call lines and y'all weigh in on this topic, let me know what you think. If you agree with what she said, if you disagree, if I'm missing it, if I'm completely off the wall, if I'm crazy, and if I got something else I need to do, y'all let me know. So yeah, if I could just get 5 more contributions on the Cash App or Super Chat, I'm going to quick intermission, and then we will go from there.
For every mountain you brought me over, for every trial you see me through, for every blessing. Hallelujah, for this I give you praise. Oh, for every mountain you brought me over, for every trial you've seen me through, for every blessing.
All right, so I need 3 more to open up the call lines, and then we'll go from there. All right. Well, I'm a short 3, so all good. We can shut this down and maybe continue this conversation later. But I did want to acknowledge, shout out to you, Jermaine, for the 2. I appreciate you with the super sticker. Shout out to you, Drago O, with the 2. It says, my heart breaks for the children they suffer. I could not agree more. That's partially why I wanted to have this conversation. Ultimately, it is, I think, the younger kids, the younger generations who suffer, right? And this is why I think, to me, this entire thing stood out to me, because it's like a lot of these conversations and a lot of these situations I think could be avoided if there was just even a baseline understanding of history and how Black folks are perceived, truthfully. And for some reason, there just seems to be this consistent disconnect that I see among young Black women, where it's like either they are just completely unaware and they are just easy targets to be manipulated, to be abused, or it could just be that in the video I showed y'all the first time, they don't necessarily really care. I don't know if y'all saw this one, but let me show this to you guys again, because I thought this was actually this I think is a perfect example of what I think is going on today. If I could stop doing this. This is right here, where it's like either there is just total ignorance, total and complete ignorance, or these ladies are ignoring what their ancestors have told them. And so the problem is when you ignore the red flags, at best, you have a broken heart. At best, you have, maybe failed situations, bad memories. But some of these situations end up being dire, end up being lethal, because you have to remember, at the backdrop of everything going on right now is a lot of economic tension. Men of all races, and yes, including white men who are struggling economically, feeling like they're losing their country, a waning white population, right? These are all things that are going on. People who are feeling discontented, feeling like the country that was meant for them is no longer at their disposal. And there are people who are quite frankly mad and angry. We saw this in the Montgomery, Alabama brawl. I know a lot of Black folks were excited, and they were, excited to see fighting back. But the context behind that was there was a group of men who, for whatever reason, were not willing to respect authority, because the person in authority was a Black man. And even the co-pilot, from my understanding, ended up standing up and saying this was clearly racially motivated. And so that's the backdrop of what's going on today in certain environments, in certain countries, in people's subconscious or conscious mind. Some men feeling like they're losing their nation. Some men really afraid that they're losing their people. Dylan Ruth, somebody. Even some of these different shooters. Like I said, I don't want to go down a rabbit hole, but it's like these ladies have to be aware of what's going on, so you just don't create an easy target. Because as I said, there are people out there who will love somebody of another race if they can connect on a soul level. And there are also people out there who will specifically target other people of other races as a way to try to breed them out, or as a way to try to do all kind of erroneous things. We saw that in the math equation I showed you from Thomas Jefferson, when he was like, if you interracially breed, if you create kids, continue to create kids with these people, eventually their blackness will breed out. So that is also a tool, has also been used as a tool of your destruction, interracial mixing. Having baby, like that's also has been used. So that's what I'm saying. It's like women have to be aware of this. Again, I'm not saying that there aren't cases where true love can exist. It absolutely can. But for you to go into these situations and act like there are no risks, and to literally, in some instances, you are distancing yourselves from the men who are most likely to marry you, which is Black men. You're distancing yourselves from them and then putting yourself in an environment that is potentially volatile without being aware of the potential dangers, without being aware of all the historical backdrop and all the different things to navigate. If you don't do that and you just go in completely ignorant, this is how we have cases of people going up missing, seriously, cases of people getting hurt. We've all seen of it. I've covered a few of them, divested disasters. Like, these things are real and it's dangerous. So that's why I wanted to talk about this. Anyways, thank you guys for the support. Okay, looks like I got enough, so I can open up the call lines. I appreciate you. Marriage, politics, and sports. It says it's really not complicated. Men of the dominant group has routinely taken the woman of the lesser groups and wives and concubines. Yes, those lesser group women generally look at it as an upgrade to and for their survival. You hit the nail on the head. That's exactly what I was referring to. Shout out to you, is it Desaline? I feel like I always butcher it. I hope I didn't butcher it. But thank you for the thank you so much for the super sticker. I really appreciate it. It's always Jermaine's fault too. Your name always makes me laugh. It says miscegenation is death by lethal integration for African people. There you go. So thank all of you guys. Thank you so much for that contribution. And let's open up the call lines. Let's open up the call lines. I appreciate you guys. For those of you who want to call in, I think I'm assuming Mr. Z popped out, because I know I saw him in the comments earlier when I was like right in the middle of a tangent. But for those of you guys who want to call in, I do have a few minutes. I'd like to hear your input on any of this, or if you need me to kind of bring you guys up to speed, because I have covered off a lot. I covered off 2 videos, and then I also covered off, I went over some basic stats there. So I'm curious your thoughts on this. Again, my goal is never to try to shame anyone, no matter what their preference is. I mean, of course, I'm always going to support and love Black love. That's always my preference. But I'm like, whether you're in a relationship or not, like whatever, that's my goal isn't to shame anybody for their choice. My goal, however, is to allow you to be aware of what your choices mean. And I think ladies in particular, it's like we have to get out of this delusion. We have got to get out of this toxic mindset that is going on and really start to deal with why we continue to create ourselves as easy targets and why we continue to be disrespected, continuously disrespected, right? And that's ultimately what I want to talk about. So it looks like we got Always Remain Fault here. Shout out to you. Shout out to Demetrius. Also, shout out to you. Thank you so much for the generous super chat. It says, what can brothers the continent can do to maintain our family's value system and traditional culture in this age of degeneration? Because young ladies on the continent are hyper-focused on dismantling these under the guise of womanism and development. Wait, help me understand. So are you saying, so are you talking about trying to fight against the westernization of Africa? I'm trying to make sure I understand. Are you talking about within the context of America? Help me to understand your question a little bit more. But I do really appreciate the generous super chat. Thank you so much.
That go the money. That go the money.
Yeah, so just help me understand, if you wouldn't mind clarifying that a little bit more in the comment section. I do see you. It's all Jermaine's fault. I see you, Mr. Z. I see you, Kevin C. Okay, so I know we got some of my regulars here. So who wants to kick off?
Let Jermaine go first, because he was the first one in.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well, I just want to say hi to everybody on the panel and everything, everybody in the chat. Um, Shay, I typically come on your panel because I think we can see eye to eye from a certain standpoint.
Uh-huh.
And I think this is really a lot of proof that God is real. Like women are not being honest, right? Like if women were to really be honest, there are certain times where they're being honest about how they feel about brothers. And the reality of it is what they hate the most is losing the argument and being wrong when it comes to men on the internet, particularly red pill. Like, that's what
Mm,
they're really mad
mm.
about. They'll never admit it, and they will go into these relationships with other men as of some sort of revenge, vengeance, vindication, vindictiveness against black men. They will never admit it.
We were
And
right.
the reason I say
Mm-hmm.
right, and the reason I say that is because I don't know how deep people get into the Bible, but this says the word is a discerner of
Hmm.
thoughts, intents, and all of that stuff. So it knows what you mean to do, and if you're doing that hatefully, it will punish you for that. And a lot of these responses from white men, the behavior from white men, the way they treat black women, it's that hate being redirected right into you again, right? They will never admit it. That's the reality of it. And I hope black men understand when they watch these videos, even in these videos, where they talk about, oh, these white men are racist. Understand, they're not. They didn't make these videos for you. They really didn't make this video for black women. They made these videos for white men, and they want it to try
Agreed.
to white guilt white men out of their hatred towards the women they date and procreate and even marry. Because the dynamic between black women and white men is this: to black women, white men are a superstar. They're basically groupies for white men,
Yeah.
and to white men and black women to white women. I mean, black women to white men is basically the groupie, the throwaway. I can date you whenever I feel like. I can hit it whenever I feel like. I could probably smash your whole community and drop y'all off, and you'll never turn around and really hate me. You'll only beg me to treat you a slightly better, just a little bit of crumbs. So that's the reality. It's not just about, oh, they want to survive and be concubines and all that stuff. You can survive. You tried to survive without the black men. You know what I'm saying? You can try that. You relied on the government, so you can survive without that. The reality is that they hate losing this argument, and they're so-called married to being right. That's. I'll close right there, just for a moment. I'll let somebody else go.
Yeah. Real quick, shout out to you, the professional 238 with the Cash App. I appreciate the support there. And to your point, it's always Jermaine's fault. I completely agree. One of the what I found interesting in some of the different data that I was researching was what black women said versus what they did. Because in some of the research I found, they talked about how there are black women who were who vocally said that they were opposed to white men. They vocalized that. But then when we looked at the overall results, the trends were consistent with all women, which was that they preferred white men or that they had a higher interest in white men first. So it was like what they said was different than their behavior. And again, I
Hey,
don't.
can I say
Yeah.
just one more Bible scripture? And I want people to think about this. There's a scripture that says, "No man can have two masters," and I want you to relate that to women, or they'll love one and they'll hate the other. And when you think of black or male leadership, understand what that means. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I just was saying that I agree, and I'm familiar with that verse. I think it's with regards to money, if I'm not mistaken, in having reverence for money versus reverence for God, which is also an important component of this because one of the reasons I think women and black women can fall into this self-hating, self-destructing narrative is because they're going after this Miss Anne fantasy that a lot of white women don't even experience. They're chasing after a fantasy. They're chasing after money. They're chasing after whatever they think the prestige, whatever it may be, that a lot of white women don't even have. And again, this you're hard pressed to find Black women who actually admit this. And then again, for those Black women who really are not interested in white men like that, like, you usually don't find them online talking about them. They're just quietly living their lives, whatever. But you're hard pressed to see them do it. But it's like the fact that we continue to have these conversations is a reflection of what's really going on. The fact that Black women are the only women in America, at least that I know of, who have more kids than their men. Where are those other kids coming from? Right? Who are they sleeping with to get those kids? You know what I mean? So it kind of goes deep. But I don't know if any of you else wanted to jump in.
Yeah. So thanks for having me up, Shay. So to Jermaine, what Jermaine was saying, look, we are, not all of us played a lottery, but for those of us that played a lottery, you know you probably ain't gonna win. You know that there's a lightning strike of chance of winning, even less than a lightning strike of chance of winning. But you play anyway, especially when it start getting into the hundreds of millions of dollars, maybe even $1 billion. Yeah, you play anyway. That's Black women messing around with white dudes, right? So you know most likely you gonna strike out. You know he gonna dog you. You know most likely he gonna pipe and toss you back into the Black community. You know, but that 1 of 1 million chance that this turns from just a sexual relationship to a relationship to marriage, that 1 of 1 million chance it might happen, you'll risk it. You will risk it. And yes, at the most, what you most likely will get is a oops baby, right? That you'll hold on to for dear life, right? Yeah. So I understand. But the young lady, I agree with you, Shay. The young lady was acting like she was saying something new about these white men. Like, bro, have you been living in the same country? Like, exactly. Like, bro, and I agree with Jermaine. So 100%, I agree with Jermaine, where it's like the message was not for Black men. It wasn't for other Black women. It was to shame white men. It was to shame white men because it feels kind of, sort of uncomfortable that y'all so damn racist even when y'all having sex with us, right? It kind of makes me cringe a little bit when you're saying the N-word in my presence, or you're saying to your friends, yeah, I'm effing an N-word, right? Like it makes me feel weird that you're referring to me like that. It makes me feel weird when you say the N-word in rap songs and you say it really aggressively when you're listening to a song. So I agree with Jermaine. It actually is to shame white men from not being white men, because they I'm gonna try to stay PG without getting real, but let's be very clear. Sisters think they got the fire good.
They do,
right? They think they're gonna put they think they got the fire good. They think they're gonna put the Gok 3000 on them and the fire good, and somehow the white man gonna stop being a white man because you put the fire good on him. And when it don't work, now you don't know what to do. When he still go home to his white wife, and once again, you'll never be Miss Cartwright. When he still go home to his white wife, or when he does his thing with you for 6 months, 9 months, maybe a year, and then y'all stop talking, and then a year later he's married to a white woman. Now what? Right? So like this young lady, it was annoying listening to her speak, because I covered this also, right? It was annoying. Yeah. It was annoying listening to her speak because first of all, she acted like she was saying something new or revelatory. Yawn. Right? And then secondly, the fact that we continue to have the conversation about being Black people in an anti-Black society, right? Before, even if you're, and I say this, right? Like, even if we're talking about a fit Black woman, kind Black woman, she betters her chances at I've said this before we can get to a place where Black women can date white men without the fear of the N-word being present, or dating white men and he's not just trying to knock you off a bucket list, or you're truly dating, he's just not having fun with you. Before we can get to that, you would first have to tear down the same white supremacy that's making you go after him in the first place. You would first have to tear down the same white supremacy that's making you or causing you to choose him first in the first place, or to throw yourself on him on the first place, right? You see all these videos of all these Black young girls doing the whole slavery challenge thing where they calling the white dude they slave master. Remember that was a thing a few months ago?
I don't
right? Shay, you covered it too. You remember the one where the Black girls were putting the white boyfriend hand around their neck and call him a slave master?
When they were
let's give it another 5 years and see how many of them are still with the white dude. Right? You see what I'm saying? So like, that's the world we live in, and it's unfortunate like I always say, the internet will expose us all. So these people are just they're being really loud about the internet will expose us all. These people are being very, very loud about their anger towards black men, and white men that are not opposed to having sexual situations with black women. They'll have fun with you, and if you're lucky, one or two of them will marry you. Even more of them will have oops babies by you, and even more of them will just have the fun with you. And then they'll try to throw it in brothers like me face when we call them racist in the future. Be like, I'm not racist. I had sex with a black woman 12 years ago, right? So like. And you know, I'll just pause right there and let Kevin C go. But this is ridiculous. This young lady, I actually, it was funny because she was trying to garner sympathy and like Jermaine said, shame white men for being white men and saying the N-word and doing racist stuff, even though they're having sex with a black woman. And it didn't work. And I feel no sympathy for her. The white men that's piping, not feeling sympathy for her. I guess the only one that feels sympathy for her is similarly minded black women, maybe. Outside of that, yawn.
That's why she said black women who have white, like she had to be very specific with the ones who she was trying to get comment from, because I'm like, nobody listening to that is really going to be sympathetic towards you at all. And as I mentioned before, you can't really put demands on like grown adults. Can't be like, you can't do this to me. It's like the collective of white men are going to look at that and be like, oh, let's call a meeting and see how we can be more respectful to black women. Like, that's not happening. So if you don't want to be disrespected, then just don't put yourself in a situation.
The collective of white men, Shay, are telling black, you get what you get when you come over here. You're coming over here for the resources. Right. You're coming over here for the white patriarchy. You're coming over here for the status of having a white boyfriend or at least having sex with a white dude. That's what you're coming over here for. Then guess what? You deal with what we give you. And if we give you disrespect, and if we give you N-word, and if we give you giving you the cold shoulder, if we give you meanness or ignoring you or telling our friends or family, no, it's not what you think it is. If we give you that, then that's what you take, because we know why you're here anyway.
I'm curious, and you can maybe add to this, or Kevin C, if you want to hop in, because I'm like, do you think is there a genuine ignorance? Has the educational system failed black women so much, or do they just know these things and just truly don't care? Like this is where I really struggle to understand how these lovely ladies can be so ignorant, and how there can be so many of them. Like it'd be something if it's like a handful, but I'm like, how are you so many of you guys completely?
I'll answer that and then move out of Kev C's way. Let me hear you up and answer that and move out of Kev C's way. So I think it's a both and. I think when you see what DeSantis is doing in Florida, I think we were already doing that with the education system for the past couple decades anyway. You know, Shay, me and you are not too far in age, and we already know people our age that play down black people, that talk about slavery like it was nothing, that talk about Jim Crow, and they play it down. So the education system did its job. It watered down the horrors of slavery and Jim Crow to the point where you have black people that think it's a joke. As a matter of fact, black people that blame their ancestors for Jim Crow more than they blame the white folks, right? So yes, you have black women who, yes, you know, the education system or the indoctrination system in this respect did its job. There's number one. But number two, you do have women that fully understand what's at stake, their sanity, whatever is left of it. They do understand who they're dealing with, but they don't care, because like I said in my intro, they're playing the lottery. And for them, if they win big, they get the white husband in the suburbs with the white picket fence and the mixed kids, right? So for them, it's worth the risk, right? When K. Michelle was doing what she was doing with Ryan Lochte, she was playing a lot. She was hoping against all hope that Ryan Lochte would marry her one day. It didn't happen. Then she was on a radio show talking about men are bad people. Yo, bum ass, you lost. That's all that is. You lost. When Aisha Taylor married the white dude, thinking that one day they're gonna have a mixed kid, and unfortunately they could have no children, they end up divorcing. Now she's with a white woman. You lost, right? You lost, right? There's a reason why Keke Palmer, we mentioned her earlier, why Keke Palmer was with the white dude. Then you find out she's same-sex loving also. Then she's with the light-skinned dude. Then it doesn't work out. Now she over here dancing and saying, my son gave me this body, and yawn. Right? These people have money sometimes, they have status, but they still be losing because the white dude ain't checking. He'll have fun with you, but that's all it is. So to answer your question, I think that yes, there are some that the indoctrination system did its job, and then there's others where they're gambling, and they just get mad that they keep on coming snake eyes. That's all. And I'll pause right there.
Very interesting. I think a very interesting analogy of playing the lottery. That actually makes sense. That actually, I could see that being a combination of both, for sure.
Look, KFC, I got to jump in front of you one more time. Got to give this short story. There's a story that was out maybe 4 or 5 years ago, maybe 6 years ago, of a young black woman, white boyfriend. The white boyfriend ended up spitting on her because they got into an argument. You know why the white boyfriend spit on her? Because she wanted to play slave play sex and he didn't. You heard right. The black woman, it's in my community. Well, is it in one of my videos? Yeah, it's one of my videos, or maybe it's in my community chat. I can't remember. But the white boyfriend said no. They got into an argument about it. And funny enough, ironically enough, he ended up spitting on her. And then she went and bailed him out of jail and everything. But once again, a black woman, hear what I'm saying? Black woman wants to play slave play sex with white boyfriend. White boyfriend does not. They end up getting in an altercation. And funny enough, he ends up spitting on her. That's the world we live in.
That's
and I'll pause right there.
Yeah, that's like some neo-Ned stuff. Kevin, I know, Kevin, you've been waiting patiently for some time. So what are your thoughts on what's been said? Or
hey, first of all, hello to you, Shay, and to all you folks.
Mm-hmm.
My opening shouldn't take very long, but I'll say this is that so what's already been said is that it seems like you have a certain group of women who believe they can overcome the odds, like despite everything that they see in front of them, despite the reality, despite the hardcore negativity, the racism, the anti-blackness, and everything else. They're like, yeah, I see all of that, but you know what? It's not going to happen to me. So they're really trying to, it's basically, they're trying to be the exception. The three-legged dog, right? You can find a three-legged dog if you look hard enough. Yeah, most dogs have 4 legs, or most of them start off with 4 legs. They lose one by accident or something. However it is, they lose that leg. So you can find that three-legged dog somewhere, but they're trying to be that three-legged dog, the exception to the actual rule. And this is not the men's fault, by the way. We can't put this on the other group of men who are doing what it is they're doing. And I also want to say that, a lot of times in these conversations, what gets lost, and I'm glad you always bring out the stats. That's why I like when you remind everybody what the statistics are, that most men, when they marry the women in their racial group at an 80% plus rate. That's all races of men, all of them. And then, on the other side, the women are going after one group. That's a reinforcement and and actually confirmation of essentially the 80-20 concept, the Pareto principle, right? You got the majority of women going after the small percent of the men, while that one group of men is specifically going after the women in his group at an 80% plus rate. So that's why I don't have any problem with the IR, or mixed marriages, mixed kids, all that other stuff, because it's going to happen. I just want to see it genuine, honest, organic. And everybody within that circle, that would be the 2 people involved, the extended family, that would be the parents on both sides and the grandparents, and then the kids that come out of that. Everybody working in accord and understanding, and there's actual love and acceptance. When you have that, I don't have any issue with it. But when you're a woman who's essentially fighting uphill against, the system itself, and then you're saying, well, I'm going to be that exception to the rule. And this guy is telling you, well, he's using the slurs. He's, showing you what it is he is. His parents are showing you, the grandparents are showing you, and you're still going to, try to, squeeze a round peg into a square hole anyway. Then you get what you get from that. And you cannot blame these men. So we can't put that on them, which just counts that argument of, oh, well, I didn't see all the red flags. Like, it's very interesting that I don't realize how this woman didn't realize that she's literally self-incriminating. With her little video talking about, oh my gosh, would you look at this and tell me about this and what about this and can you believe this? Like, so why? So then the question becomes, so why are you subjecting yourself to all of this, this negativity? When I was going through, I went through a lot of, when I was in the military, I would go through a lot of, difficult training. And just to screw with your head, they would go like, hey, candidate. They would call you candidate, or they would call you, whatever it is, you were trying to, whatever class you were trying to get through, roster number so and so. You can end this. This is gonna suck. I'm gonna make this hard for you, but you can quit this anytime you want and just end this yourself.
Right.
Just by voluntarily withdrawing. And that's what these women are not doing. They're going into this knowing that, there's going to be some negativity. They're going to be subject to just a lot of issues and problems, and they're trying to really force it anyway. So we can't blame the men. We can't put it on them. We can't put it on any group. It's going to have to be the women who subject themselves to that. So people try to do the same way. They go, well, I can't blame anybody. No. I got to put the blame somewhere. I'm not going to blame somebody for being what it is they are. All right. Especially when they're telling you what it is they are. So if you're going to subject yourself to that negativity, then you're going to have to deal with it. And nobody wants to hear the complaints. And I'll stop right there. Thanks for letting me up.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thanks, Kevin C.
Shay, real quick, do you remember when you covered, and I covered too, it's funny, me and Shay be covering the same thing, the dating divide. You remember the look on the interview that Dr. Jennifer Lundquist did, where she was speaking about the book, the look on her face when she was speaking about how women of color are chasing after white men? You remember the look on her face of like, because you could tell these are like two, there was one with Jennifer Lundquist with the interviewer, and then there was another one with Dr. Chantal Buggs and Dr. Jennifer Lundquist with another interviewer. And both of them, with the one with just Jennifer Lundquist and the one with Jennifer Lundquist and Chantal Buggs, these are two feminist women, right? One of them is mixed race, the other one is a white woman, but these are two feminist women. And for them to pretty much be speaking and coming to the realization that all feminism did was just make a bunch of women want white men.
No,
like a bunch of women of color want white men.
And I still, we were supposed to do a while back, and then somebody got COVID. And
look, if you could get that inner Shay, please. If you could get that interview, please.
Excuse me.
I'll follow with them real quick. A shout out to you, Raw. I am always scared of butchering your last name, but I wanted to read your super chat. It says it's even worse in Africa, but it's not fueled by self-hate and angst against black men. Like in U.S., black women are in Africa really just see white men as tickets to a better life. Yeah, that's interesting. I do know actually a couple of men who are actively building in Africa as we speak, and that might be a worthwhile conversation. Like as a part two or a whole nother topic of like dating or marrying in the continent and what that looks like. Because I do know the continent is huge, and obviously there's different nations and different cultures. But yeah, I am familiar that there is a push in particular nations, I think, for more of a modern Western kind of lifestyle. But I know that they're getting pushback. So, but I don't pretend to be the expert on it, so I don't want to speak too much. But yeah, that might be a good topic.
Excuse me, Shay. Excuse me. I'm gonna keep this real quick because I know some fellas been here longer than me. But after that DJ Kid Pope, Jason Roger Pope situation that everybody seems to want to just sweep under the rug, it's like mentioning that name, like talking about the boogeyman or something like that. I think that really went underplayed, and the fact that wasn't blown out of proportion, like say Bill Cosby or R. Kelly or any of these kind of people. Like that shit was like a nightmare. If somebody were to do a screenplay about a movie or that situation like that happened in the Carolinas, and keep in mind the Carolinas go hand in hand. They're like Mississippi and Alabama. They right there next door to each other. And speaking on that note about in Africa, they have their own Jason Roger Pope over there in Kenya. Michael Oliver, he did damn near the same thing. And both of these men, especially DJ Kid Pope, was introduced or brought forth the harem of black women by his black wife. And we talking about a strong independent group here. These women are supposedly the most educated. They shove their degrees in everybody's face and everything. They're independent. They can do it on their, they're making their own conscious decisions to do this. No black man is putting a gun to their head. No white man, in a sense, is putting a gun to their head. They're making their own conscious effort to do this. And I'll land my plane right there.
Okay, I think I need to Google DJ Kid Pope.
Oh, you didn't hear that story? Ooh, Shay. Ooh, Shay, look that up. You can
do a whole series on this.
There's so many different stories. It's hard for me to keep up sometimes.
Shay,
but that one takes the cake. There is no story like that. You won't find
hundreds, Shay. That's all I'll tell you. Hundreds.
DJ Kid. Okay, legend. Okay, I'm looking up right now. So I looks like
Mhm.
I'm late. 2019. Okay, I'm late. Wait, this is 2019.
Mm-hmm.
Did something happen recently where it came back up, or?
No, it's just
No,
I
no,
never
no. We're just
forgot it.
using it.
I
Mhm.
that,
Oh, as an
that,
example.
that's
Okay.
like a staple that I just never forgot. I don't know what they're doing
Mhm.
with him. I haven't heard about him getting sentenced or
Years ago,
anything.
DJ Kid, Jason. Okay, this was a little bit before I think I started my YouTube thing, so maybe that's why.
Mhm.
But okay, but yeah, it doesn't surprise me. It does not surprise me one, but that's like the one dude in who went I think to Kenya and slept with like hundreds of women and gave him AIDS.
Michael Oliver.
Yeah, is that what Michael Albert? Yeah, similar, and it's just like the cap,
Yeah.
and that's what I'm
So.
saying. I don't think these women also understand how they make themselves targets for men who
Mhm.
legitimately do not like Black people and have an odd against them and want to find ways to harm them. And so they make themselves easy targets by just being super ignorant or just choosing to be ignorant or stubborn or whatever it may be. Like they make themselves targets, like clearly.
But why?
You remember what happened with the what's the shea butter sister? Remember there was two sisters. They had a business, and one of them got involved with an Italian dude. Yeah, one of them got involved with an Italian dude. She mysteriously died of whatever she died of, and then he damn near turned it into what, a beard business or a beard. Yeah. So I agree with you, Shay. These Black women are being very loud about their resentment. There's even a white dude that did a little skit on Instagram where well, actually he did a stand up where he's speaking about Black women, talking to him, white guy from Chicago, I think, white guy speaking about how Black women are talking to him about how horrible Black men are whenever he dates them. You see what I'm saying? Like their resentment knows no bounds. So even when they do have the white guy and the white guy is taking them seriously, dating them, they can't help but talk crap about Black men to the point where, like I said, the white guys just see that as, okay, I'm gonna have fun with you, and the only issue is then some of those Black women, if they do catch one of these, die slows, I'll call it, if they do catch one of these die slows, then they bring it back to the Black community, and so.
Right. Okay, real quick, let me get to these super chats, and then I know Gamechanger has been patiently waiting. Okay, so shout out to you with the 2. It says Cynthia G blamed Black men for DJ. I mean, surprise. That's what I would expect. It says women are primarily lower to resources instead of culture or ethnicity. Shay Sade, and yes, I do stand by that. I do think that's another maybe philosophical conversation, but when you really want to talk about keeping a culture, building a culture, even building a nation, because we always hear about Black women talking about Black men don't build, yada yada. I'm like, meanwhile, these same women talking about Black men don't build have nothing to say about like Niger and some of the different coups that have happened in West Africa. Nothing to say about that. Black men who literally put their lives on the line are being like, we are dedicated to try to keep resources in our country and are willing to fight to do so. Now, whether or not you agree or disagree with the politics is a whole other conversation. But nevertheless, these are like literally Black men who have demonstrated that they are willing to fight to try to better their nation. Then meanwhile, Black women on the internet are like, Black women don't ever build. No Black woman anywhere ever build. I remember Rebecca Lynn Polk saying that, even the ones in Africa. And I'm like, these women are silent when it comes to clear modern day examples of Black men literally risking their lives to build. But anyways, that's a whole other conversation. Malarkey says they don't care, Sister Shay. This is why they can visit the motherland and twerk at the misery memorial. That is, if you've ever actually been to a slave site, I don't understand how you couldn't be anything but solemn and serious. Like there's nothing about any of those situations, any of the energy there that speaks to twerk, like nothing. So I don't understand how you can even have that mindset. Okay, and then Draco, I think I got you. They don't care, not ignorant, just a-holes. Draco AA1. Gregory with the 5, it says salute Shay. Crimson Cure always says a Black woman will never be Mrs. Cartwright. Yeah, it ain't happening. They're not meant to, not under the system. All I got to say is DJ Kid Pope. Yep, that's what you mentioned. Okay, so I know you have been patiently waiting, Gamechanger. So what do you have on this entire topic?
Yes, I have. So, first of all, I want to say, just like everyone else said, that there really isn't nothing wrong with interracial dating. However, there is a great difference between interracial dating and when you're doing it as a means to try to get back at a group of people that you have a hate or disdain for. And also, you're using it as a stratagem for a larger collective of women. And I'll get into that later. But first, when you do it out of revenge, hate, anger, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, what winds up happening is you find yourself with a mate where, excuse me, where the only thing you have in common is the hate, anger, and rage towards the same group of people that you have. So, for example, a black woman who simply detests black men, who have this, uh, this subtle hatred that she has for them, and she is getting with the white man to spite or make jealous or just out of anger.
Uh-huh.
Then what winds up happening is like the brother before me said, she mentions her hatred for black men to this white man, and they get together and they have a baby. Now, because I'm not going to say that she's typically unintelligent, I will say that her intelligence may be blinded by her rage. And because she's in that situation, she never really stopped to think that she is having a black male with two parents that hate black males. She really didn't stop to think about that. And in the case of the women that you played earlier, and I only seen a piece of it, she didn't think it through that, okay, wait a minute, if we share a hatred, and I'm not sure if this is the case with her, but it likely is, just judging by the outcome. If we share a hatred for, black people with Y chromosomes, then his hatred for our children is going to manifest itself eventually. Also, if you feel that a particular group of people is less than, less than another group of people, which apparently he does, and his circle of friends do as well,
Mhm.
then what will wind up happening is you are less than for dating that particular group of people, yet alone marrying them. If a person genuinely believes that they are above something, then you do not get into an institution of equality with that person, nor do you tie your family lineage into breeding an inferior stock, unless you do not have any options with the believed or the appear to be superior stock. Now, I think white guys like this find themselves in situations where they are ridiculed by another group of people because he had to resort to something that they didn't. So it's a bad situation all around. Now, what I'm talking about, creating leverage for the population. See, on one hand, you have a group of women in the black populace who are just generally undesirable for a number of reasons, primarily because they're fat. And secondarily, the general bad attitude, bad behavior, bad smell, bad makeup. And, did I mention the hair? I think I did. Yeah. So just,
No, I know. You're just keeping it matter of fact.
yeah. However, this group of generally displeasing women tend to have a very high appraisal of themselves and what they want from a mate. And you will see these same women demanding a guy that makes a significant amount, a guy who is not himself fat, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now, and they genuinely want this. This isn't a front or anything like that. And they also expect this. And this is because of a marketing strategy. Basically, essentially what they're doing is they're creating value out of false scarcity. So the only way a guy would approach a woman like this is if there were no other women to approach. There aren't many women available to this particular guy, so he is taking the lowest hanging fruit available to him. Sad but true. Now, in order to create this situation in a population where there is equal to or greater than number of women than men, they have to assure that a large portion of the women are off the market. That way, a guy can't just say, well, if you won't lose weight, I'll just go to someone who will. They have to get as many women off the market as possible And that is when the convincing of other women, like the one that you displayed earlier, comes into play. They attempt to convince her to, hey, you should date this guy, you should date this guy, you should date anything but the guy that I have decided to create a false sense of scarcity towards. So she is playing her part, and unfortunately, she's the sacrificial lamb, so the others can eat.
So if Gamechanger, are you saying that she is pretty much being a patsy for the dominant society in her particular rhetoric, which I guess benefits the less desirable WMs?
Well, yeah, in a sense, you got to understand that someone like her, who joined the sisterhood just for a sense of belonging or whatever reason, yes, the best thing that she can do for the sisterhood is not date Black men. Now, the thing about the sisterhood is they don't really care who you are with, as long as you are not with a Black man. Because you are creating competition for the far less desirable women. So they're basically telling her, listen, I want you to focus on your education, or you can do it by yourself. They will tell her anything. Get with a white man, get with a Latina man, go to Jamaica. They will tell her anything to keep her away from their selected market group. So yeah, so what she does after that, it really don't matter. As far as from the sisterhood's perspective,
Okay, I had it backwards because I thought you were saying like that's more of a propaganda coming from the dominant society. You're saying it's propaganda coming from our XX chromosome cohort. I get what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. It's propaganda coming from them. It's to scare. It's essentially to scare away the competition. So say I'm because you have a picture of a car. Say I'm at a car dealership and, we are looking at the same car, and we should, because it's a nice car. It's a nice black car, and then and I'm going to say something like, oh man, that car don't have no engine in it,
Yeah.
Or I'm going to say anything to get you to not want to buy it, because
dirty macking. I get what you're saying. Like backwards. Yeah.
But, I only have $5 and you have, $50K. So I'm going to try to haggle with this guy. I'm going to try to haggle with this salesman, but I can't do that if you're there willing to pay full price.
Dissuade me.
Exactly. Okay. So, and that's why, people like Shay Sade, they get so much pushback and stuff like that, because they are doing the opposite of what the sisterhood want, and that is providing quality women to Black men.
Yeah.
Once they start doing that, then Black men are going to start to expect quality and, really just dismiss low quality women. And unfortunately, they have become, over the decades, they have become extremely comfortable with being low quality. We all know about the large and in charge, the simply put, the extraordinarily overconfident, however unattractive Black woman. Lizzo would be an example of that. She exudes confidence. However, she is, really unsexable to any man with reasonable standards. So unless she's the only woman on earth, or she somehow convinced all other women on earth not to mess with men. So that is the mating strategy. It's unfortunate, but it's rooted in scarcity equals value. And they understand that if they create a commodity that's scarce enough, then people will value it. A person in the desert will drink swamp water,
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's not working though. That's the problem.
It has worked for quite some time. Every time you see a guy with a 6-pack walking around carrying some fat woman's purse in Walmart, that's it working. So, it has worked for quite some time, unfortunately. Now, it's not working now, and that's because these relationships are beginning to falter, and these guys are a lot more informed, thanks to people like myself and yourself. But yeah, it's not working as much as it should, as much as it used to, I should say, during the stepdaddy era and things like that.
I think they would take. Go ahead. I'm sure. I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying that's an interesting way of looking at it. I just think I saw somebody in the comments too also say that they thought that she was, I guess, a proxy or just trying to bait. I mean, I never really thought of it that way. Are there going to be women out there who discourage competition? I could definitely see that. I could definitely see that. Like if you're really challenged, like the older women who themselves feel like they're desperate or themselves want the attention may look. I've even seen this in people that I know. A woman who's well into her 50s or getting into her 50s, looking at a young daughter who's 19 and 20 and thinking, competing for competition, being like, well, I still look good. I should be getting photos, you know? And it's like, you see this stuff in real life examples. And it's like, if you have that mindset going into your 50s, if I should still be getting attention because maybe now I'm still single or my past relationship didn't work out or my marriage didn't work out, whatever, you're still in the dating market that now your young daughter is entering into and she's at your prime. If you have the wrong mindset or if you're maybe selfish minded or insecure or whatever, naturally you're going to try to do what you can to undermine your competition.
I want to take it a step further.
Or teach them not to compete with you.
That I want to go.
If I was to go to a nightclub with Idris Elba, I'd say, hey, you know something? Stay at home. I'm not going to get any play as long as you're here. So,
I hear you saying. Yeah.
Gamechanger. I think it's even worse than what you. I want to go. I think that these ladies are going scorched earth. Really, I think the sickness really is. I'm out the market. I want the younger, fresher, cuter women to be out the market too. I do agree with you that they see these younger ladies as competition. What I'm saying is they want to go scorched earth with it, and borderline. You know, there's a particular person that the ladies on the breakdown have covered. I won't even say her name on Shay Sade's channel recently. And if you could see how she sounds, it is that political lesbianism, political singleness type of thing she's advocating for. I don't think she's unique in that, is what I'm saying, right? I think you get to a place where it's more, screw the men. We all need to be over here, eating the box, I'll say, and doing our own thing over here, right? More like Mouse Utopia or Hive model type of thing going, right? So I agree with you. I'm saying I don't know if those people are even conscious enough to be enacting what you're saying. I think it's more scorched earth. It didn't work for me. It won't work for you. Burn it to the ground type of mentality, if that makes any sense.
No, they're doing it instinctually. They may not be able to articulate what they're doing.
Yeah, that's my point.
But yeah, they're definitely doing it instinctually. I mean, it is a woman's instinct to eliminate all potential competition. You know, that's why women, get a little taken back when a more attractive woman walks into a room or something like that, and you glance for a half a second or something like that. It's like, what are you looking at her for? You know, it's their instinct to do that, to eliminate competition.
Yeah.
But the scenario I just described is her trying to eliminate you from competing for her. What they're doing is something a little more sinister, and that is putting her off the market. You know, because because the two of you, you're speaking as if this is something that is an unconscious thing. This is their entire mating strategy. Now think about what that means for a second. You know, when you think about people's mating strategies, men's mating strategies, women's mating strategies, people with healthy mating strategies spend a lot of thought, time, and energy into becoming a prominent mate. A man will take a promotion even though he has to work twice as hard for a little bit more, just to get him into a high value range, or to get him the car, to get him the things that he needs to be more appealing to a mate. A woman, she will actually pluck things that I would never pluck and I would never wax, and both parties spend an abnormal amount of time in the gym. They diet. I wish I was eating a chocolate cake right now, but I'm not. We do things like, so all the effort that we put and sacrifice into not only seducing the proper mate and then sustaining a relationship with said mate once you got it, they're putting it into this tactic. And this tactic is assuring that others, stay away from this group. Like that's what they're doing. So
Hey
instead of
Shay,
doing,
you had a super chat thing to handle?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, and I wanted to. Well, I did. I think it was Ra had a question. I think as it relates to the continent, and I mentioned that might be a whole nother conversation entirely. But it sounds like he was trying to ask a question as it relates to dealing with this on the continent. I don't know if any of you guys want to weigh in. I also want to be mindful.
I will because he was generous.
Okay.
What Brothers on the Continent can do is to avoid American entertainment and avoid American styles of entertainment.
Yep.
Point blank, period. And that includes British and South African. And I know South Africa is on the continent. It's in the name of the country, but nevertheless, avoid westernized entertainment at all costs to your children, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It is toxic. It is toxic in a way that, it doesn't attack the person like, certain drugs and narcotics do. It's toxic in a way that that infects the family structure, the way drugs infects the individual body. So yeah, I do see that. I mean, every now and again, a Nollywood movie will come on Netflix or something like that, and it's crap. And in addition to being crap, it's feminist crap, or it's quote unquote progressive crap, or it's over Christian crap. The point is, y'all make crap movies in most of Africa, and it's toxic. In addition to being crappy, it's toxic. So the good news for you is that it's easy to not watch the crappy movie that Nollywood produces anyway. And so that's the good news. But the advice to you is to avoid it, at all costs. Burn it. I know it's abstract. Really burn it, but like
that has a
copy of the Netflix logo or the next crappy movie, print out a poster of it and burn it. Like tell them that you don't want this crap in Africa.
No, I agree with that, and I do want to make sure. I know Chaos Rain and Demetrius have been patiently waiting. I want to make sure they get a chance to weigh in. So I don't know if you guys want to respond to that question, or you have something else to add.
I don't know how you want to do it. I was gonna say the same thing. There's a scripture that says, "Come out from among them and be ye separate." That goes into the entertainment as far as rap and Netflix and all that stuff like that too. But I'm gonna be real, even on the continent, you can't avoid it because your borders are open. So that culture is going to spread over there regardless, unless you divide yourselves and maybe a group and have a smaller circle where you kind of even if it's kind of like a church or whatever like that, that is separate from the modern trends of society. You can't stop it. Even if you raise your kids, how would it go? Maybe 5-6 hours of the day, they go to school. They have peers. Their parents aren't as strict as you. They're gonna be infected by that modern day society trend, and they're gonna be friends with your child and spread it to him. So it's that thing is going to Africa one way or the other. It's not gonna stop it.
Well, it has to be a national or a continental effort because so let's just call it sword fighting.
Hey, can you hear me real quick?
Oh yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay, real quick, because I do want to make sure I allow Chaos Rain and Demetrius to weigh in before if you wouldn't mind, because I know they've been patiently waiting. Chaos Rain, do you have anything to add?
Chaos can go first because he came first.
The only thing I add is the women know the white men well than anything else, depending on your generation. If you're Gen Z, most likely you might not understand how the white man works or this white system per se, unless you have some conscious parents. But anything older than that, you definitely know what these people do because you've been around them. You've been in school. You do all this, etc. To be surprised that they use the word N-word towards you, and you're shocked. You're just really delusional in itself, and just want to make content and tell the whole world, say, I didn't know these men were so racist towards me. I thought we live in a more progressive society. What's going on? I'll tell you what's going on. You know what it is, and you're trying to make note like everybody else is dumb. certain generations know what it is. It's just you just come to realization because you didn't want to see it. And it got so bad to the point, so you want the whole world to know, so you voice your opinion. But we know you're playing. You know you like it. We don't believe any word you said that these people are calling me, all that stuff. I don't buy it. That's what I say.
Interesting. What do you have, Demetrius?
Well, to what Chaos just said, listen, I understand that Gen Z is young and everything, but they're not that young, if you know what I mean. Like, the youngest of Gen Z is like, I believe, like a tween right now or something. So listen.
28.
The youngest?
The start 95. So.
Okay, cool. Okay, so what I submit is Gen Alpha might have an excuse, because I believe Gen Alpha started in like 2015. Gen Z, we don't have an excuse, because that whole George Floyd situation just happened, and it swept across the media, and you had people all across high schools and just starting colleges trying to be on their like activist stuff, even though they just stopped like 2 months later, and when COVID started and all that. Listen, I said this earlier, but I really think it's willful ignorance. And I'm talking about the video that the lady was doing and talking about, and you sort of heard that, because she knows the history of this country, but she then chose to, I believe you played a video, it was like, ignoring all my ancestors' warnings or something.
Yeah, and I was like,
yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about. It has to be willful ignorance. There's no way there's like a split dichotomy in her mind that she thinks it cannot be her. It has to be willful ignorance. Like, she just somehow just threw all that history away. Now, yes, some of Gen Zers do need to open a dang book and actually read and pay attention in history class, right? But for the ones who are online talking about this, who want to ignore the racial history and racial violence, even in recent history, like in the last 5 years, they'll get it on their own, I guess, or they won't, and they will suffer dearly for it. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah, I think you guys alluded to about the example of playing the lottery. I think, to me, makes a lot of sense. That speaks to the willful ignorance, where it's just like, they may know, maybe they don't know the fullness. Maybe you can argue that's maybe not fully aware, but they know enough to have an idea that, yeah, they may experience racism. Yeah, they may experience some bad situations, but in case they're that 1% or that one person or that point, in case they're that minority, it's worth the gamble. And I'm sure there are women out there who have that mindset. They may not express it, but I'm sure it exists.
Exactly, because with all these different instances of black girls getting run out of convention centers for cosplaying as like a beloved white character, with all these instances on Twitter open to the public, anybody can see, of white people showing their true colors. Like, you mean to tell me you don't know the true extent of what white people and what racial violence can look like in this country is? Get out of here.
I'm like, just talk to a white. So I'm like, these ladies to me act like they don't have a relationship with white people. Because I'm like, if you dated white men for any capacity, then that means I would think you would have talked to their sisters. You would have had maybe white friends, white girlfriends. And I'm like, I have white friends. I have white girlfriends who tell me emphatically, yeah, my grandpa said this. My dad said this. This happened. I heard this at a family reunion. Like, who will tell you of racism that they have within the context of their own family, their own neighbors, within, like, white people will tell you, even those who don't rock with that or are not in agreement will tell you this stuff still goes on. So it's like, I guess going back to your point of willful ignorance, like, it's almost like you have to have lived under a rock or choose to be in denial for you to really be surprised. Because all you got to do is talk to a white person. They'll be like, yeah, this is still going on.
Well, no, it's not. It's
I
not
refuse.
racism though. It's something deeper than racism. It's a proven history of dysfunction, is what it
It's
is.
racism.
No, it's okay. So why do white men prefer Asian women so much? They're a different race. Come on now.
They're
No,
not black.
this is
That's not the same thing.
this is very specific. I mean, but racism
Listen,
is a belief that
that's
your
like
race is supreme.
that,
I
to,
mean,
to me,
okay,
that's like
put it
saying
like this. Put it like this. You know, if the races are getting together and pointing out one particular race, then it's really more towards that individual race, not the plurality of a racial hierarchy. Let's be clear. A lot of these white dudes that will not mess with black women or take them seriously would take an Asian woman seriously. From whatever country in Asia, even where they produce darker skinned Asian women, like India or something like that, they will get with a Pocahontas, Princess Jasmine type chick, you know, before they get with the new Little Mermaid. And the reason for that is you can't really sell your own dysfunction as a seduction tool. You can't. You know, you can't come from a burning village and say, "Hey, let me in your village," because people are going to look at you and it's like, "Wait, maybe you burned it." You know, you can't just come to somebody and like, hey, you know, I don't know why, but all my last boyfriends had AIDS. It's like, wait, what? You know, you can't come from a dysfunctional setting. That's a turnoff to any man. You know, and marriage typically and traditionally was, you know, a union of families and communities, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. No one wants to unite with your community because it's trash, and it's trash because you trashed it.
Well, you know what?
Yeah, I refuse.
You can weigh in because I'll weigh in after.
Yeah. First of all, we see by the statistics, white people date out the least amongst all races.
They have. When you're the majority, that's going to be the case.
Yeah.
When you're the majority,
I was going to add to that.
Yeah.
And we see that black people are typically at the bottom of that dating out. When it comes to racism, it's not just about my race versus the other race. In particular, white people hate black people. In particular, right? Everybody else they can get along with to a certain extent. Now they believe their race is superior, yes, but to a certain extent, they can get along with other races. It's particularly black people, right? And maybe you could put Hispanic people in there, or whatever the case may be.
Mm-hmm.
But back on topic, I refuse to believe that black women are stupid. We're talking about the most educated group of people in America. What gets in between that is women typically make decisions based on emotions, and black women are hurt, right? They're hurt by criticism from black men, even though many times the criticism is warranted, right? So they're acting out based on that. And the issue with that, the reason they can do that is because I dare to argue black men are the only group in America. I'm thinking about this while I'm talking. I've thought about it many times. Black men are the only group in America that is not a protected group in any sort or fashion, right? People say men, but it's really men have their own, white men, I should say, have their own form of protection. Even if you go down to the smallest value when you're talking about, let it be Lord of the Rings or whatever the case may be, they're race swapping this character with this character. White men will not shut up if you try to replace them at all, right? So
that's a fact.
Black men are easy targets, right? So unlike what might happen in the LGBT, they cross the line with black women sometimes, and black women let it slide a lot of times because they're a protected group, right? When you get on social media, you can be socially outcasted, so to speak, if you criticize this group. And the issue with that is the reason why these women will sacrifice themselves in a sense to date a person that may be racist, may give them a disease, may end their lives and bury them somewhere and not get any justice. The reason they'll do that is because hate is a stronger motivator than love is, right? When I was a child, I had 3 favorite teams, right? When I grew up, I realized why I liked those 3 teams. It was the Knicks. I'm not sorry. It was the Heat, the Indiana Pacers, and the Bulls. The reason I like those three teams is because all three of those teams hated the Knicks, and so did I. Right? I just picked those teams because I hated the Knicks. So these women are motivated by their hate, which comes from the hurt of the so-called red pill or whatever the case may be, right? So that's what we have to understand. Like in a sense, and I hate to say it this way because I never thought I would say this. In a sense, the black woman white man relationship is the perfect relationship because they have so much in common. They both have a god complex and they both hate black men with a passion. It's just white men will not even use that seeing of eye to eye to say, let me marry you, let me love you, let me whatever. It's all the sexual gratification and move on. And black women, they did it to themselves because they sexualized themselves as much as they do. So
So
that will never change. It's just that they're they know what's going on, but their emotion, their hate is too strong to even let logic seep into that. And I think majority of black women date white men. You could argue me to the moon. I think the majority of black women had at least one sexual encounter with a white man. I'll close right there.
I'd be
so I
curious
want
to
to
discuss on that. I will have to wrap this up in the next few minutes, so feel free to weigh in, Game Changer. But I'm going to have to wrap this up pretty soon.
Okay, I want to weigh in on a comment that was deleted when they talked about the violence between black men, and that really goes back to what I was saying, where people can, when resources are scarce, particularly a needed resource, people compete, and a lot of the violence that you see in the black community and between black men is because of this artificial scarcity that has been created amongst black women, in the black community. It's unfortunate but true. But in the backdrop of every gangsta rap, or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, there is women. Life is nothing but women and money, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There is a need for money and women. They go hand in hand. So yeah, really, what they're doing is they're peacocking for the attention of women who do not deserve it. And that's what happens when you create a scarce resource artificially. Put it in this perspective: the diamond industry, for example, they basically, the market is flooded with diamonds. However, if they released it all at the same time, then diamonds would drop to the price of gravel because there's such an abundance of it. So what they do is they keep them in safes and vaults, and then they distribute them. They sparsely distribute them every year. Like, we're only going to give out X amount to create a false sense of scarcity. Now, and as a result of this, the value became higher, and the violence in Africa and places like Rwanda and stuff like that, increased dramatically over, I forget where, but where they had the diamond wars. But, the price of blood diamonds basically caused the violence. So to answer that particular question that was rightfully deleted, creating false scarcity, there is going to be violence as a result of that. Unfortunate but true. I don't think you really care, but that's just to say that. Now, to address Jermaine, what he was saying, I agree, and I'm not going to split hairs on the definition of racism. I will say that it's not blind hatred, in the sense that I am this race and I detest all others for not being this race, which is implied in the word racism. It is something different. It is a pattern of dysfunction that spreads for about 3 generations now, that other groups of people simply don't want to be a part of. And that is really what the absence of attraction is, when it comes to particularly black men and black women and white men, or white men towards black women. I mean, you can't see. Here's the core thing, Jermaine, that a person provides to the opposite sex, particularly a woman provides to a man. Because black men have been clouded with this artificial scarcity, we feel that a woman's only value is a sexual gratification value. But to other men who are not as clouded, a woman's value is her ability to create and sustain healthy families. Now, Unfortunately, Black women has displayed an ineptitude of doing so for about 3 generations and counting right now. They have. So it's very difficult to sell themselves as adequate wife mothers to a group of people who, and this is what they're looking for. They like, hey, I have shown for the past 50 years or so that I am not capable of creating and sustaining families throughout generations. Get with me because I got that good. They are looking at them like they are crazy. And in a very real way, from their perspective, they are. But I wouldn't say that it's hatred. It's just like, you don't have what I value. You haven't shown an aptitude of what I value. So why are you here? Stuff like that only works on thirsty Black men, unfortunately.
Well, I'll add this because it does open up another interesting conversation that I think would be another life in and of itself. But in some of the research that I mentioned, and this is when it was looking at, again, the dating patterns, looking at white men versus white women, and of course they showed by and large they still prefer themselves. Surprise, surprise. But when it was looking at biases across different races. Basically, what it showed was that you had, the white, Asian, Indian, Hispanic community. They basically were still looking at Black men or Black women, potential partners, through the lens of previous stereotypes, be it good or bad. So as we know, for Black people, the stereotypes in America they've not really been positive. But then now, to your point, we have all this history, we have social media, we have all this behavior that's going viral, and people are still very much seeing through that lens. And that's something that they continue to track all across the spectrum, which is why you may have, they said in your point, a white guy who may be interested in an Asian, but may not be interested in a Black woman because of how they perceive Black femininity to be. And this, even if you go back to that, I can't think of his name, the shooter, where he wrote that manifesto. In the manifesto, he was like, did not like Black people, which is why he literally shot him up. But in his article, he kind of talked about how Asians were the modern minority, and there's that whole conversation. So, there is a lot of nuance to this. But I think what you say about not only stereotypes but perceptions around femininity and masculinity, and we do know in Black American culture, at least, that being a wife, raising a family is not a value that is promoted. It's usually one that is discouraged. And it could be, to your point, Gamechanger, because they are women who don't get married or whatever. They are trying to push away competition. There could be an aspect of that for sure. It could be because of feminism. I think there's multiple components, but we do know by and large that it is not, a lot of women don't see marriage, raising a family, working together with a man, or being under a Black man in that capacity as something desirable. Because if they did, we wouldn't be having this conversation. I'd be having more women come on when I've talked about life stuff, when I've talked about, okay, what does it mean to be submissive? Like, I'd have more interest, but I don't. You know what I mean? I talk about life stuff, and it's like crickets. But then it's that interracial relationships, baby mama, then that's where the eyeballs. And it's like, even if you look at where people's interests are, that speaks to where the mindset, and that speaks to what people are living. So
exactly. And so, and the reason why Black men aren't as affected by it is because our negative stereotypes are easily disproven because it deals in the present. Like our negative stereotypes, like you are a gangster, or you are ignorant, or you are poor, or something like that. It only takes an hour, or even minutes, or even seconds of getting to know somebody to know that he just don't fit that particular mold or that particular stereotype. I mean, a woman who don't really date Black guys, but Michael B. Jordan walks into a room and she's like, he's not about that life. I'll get with him in a second. So, it's a whole different thing. Now, unfortunately for Black women, the stereotype is future behavior, to where all of the negative things that can happen is something that you will find out along the line. Like the stereotype of, divorcing divorcing somebody so you can be a single mother and raise your kids in the crappiest way possible, that's something you got to actually impregnate them to find out. So, a lot of guys aren't willing to take that risk, so it's a whole different thing. Ours it affects us in completely different ways.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay. What were you gonna say? And then I will need to wrap this up if you guys have any final words.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to basically what one thing that proves my point that it's hate as a motivator is many of these black women don't even know that there's like a white red pill. Whenever they're doing lives talking about women or even talking about black women, they're never in the comments making all kind of disparaging remarks about the white men on there. And a lot of times it really is like they treat white men as like a god. You know what I mean? They treat him as a god, and it's proven because the brother that said something about cosplaying before, like I pay attention to that community as well. They'll go in there, they'll cosplay as a character, and they'll say, "Well, this character's not black," and they'll say all this stuff about them, but they'll still go to those events, those conventions, and guess who they're checking for? They're checking for white men, and they're checking for women. So even amongst the crowd that's hating them, they still will overlook all their sins, wash away all their sins, and still prefer them. When black men, all we do is try to correct our community. That's all I have to say about that.
Yeah. I agree with all of you guys. I think in the case of Gamechanger, there are instances where it's like a person is more open-minded. They're just skeptical of, okay, is that person going to feed up to the stereotype? And then there are also instances where it's like, no, people are just legitimately racist. Like I don't deny that. I think there's a spectrum of how people move, but nevertheless, we do see, which is why I wanted to do this live, we do see that there is this consistent behavior that for whatever reason it's just been uncomfortable to own this and acknowledge this as a tenet of Black culture, where we are comfortable calling out Black men that we believe are self-hating or whatever, but for whatever reason, Black women, that like you can't do that. But it's just like so blatantly obvious that to not do so until not acknowledge what's going on, in my opinion, is actually dangerous, because now these women are making themselves easy targets. And so that's what I think is a problem. To your point, I don't know why you got timed out. I don't know if that was an accident. I'm just seeing a comment. Anyways, so I didn't want to be mindful if you guys had any other final thoughts, because we'll have to wrap this up pretty soon. Also, shout out to you, Stuart D with the 10 and the super sticker. Thank you so much for the donation. And then also RO, it says sex trumps all. If your sex is westernized, basically meaning pro-white, then everything else westernized is all right. There is no getting around it, no matter how hard you fight. Yeah, we are on the West, and so Western cultural values are certainly impacting how we see things. You can't necessarily deny that. So if you guys, any final thoughts? Wanted to weigh in on some of the things that we've said.
Yeah, I mean, I'll go for it, Chaos.
Oh, good.
You got it. You got it, brother.
You might have passed out. Go ahead.
Yeah, no worries. So yeah, thanks for having me. So about it's ethnic reputation is an unfortunate factor in mating selection. And rightly so, because you're not just marrying the individual, you are marrying their family, their community, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You are bringing that, and you are merging those two things. Like, I mean, you don't bring one side, which side is the bride and which side is the groom, and then one side, the bride side, just so happen to be completely, messed up. And it's a whole network that you're dealing with. So because we in the Black community, we have such base desires, and that's because we've been deprived of everything. But so and by deprived of everything, when the only thrill you can afford is a cheap thrill, then that seems expensive to you, is what I mean by that. So nevertheless, Black women are losing in that regard, and they're going to continue to lose until they you can't say one half of your community is effed up, but you try to sell yourself, because you are also trying to sell that half of the community.
Right.
You're essentially saying that, yeah, so, and your children are going to be a part of that half of the community. It's not going to work. It's not going to play with a man who is serious about legacy and family, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The young woman earlier, she obviously got with a man who's not serious about these things, who's just trying to get laid on a long-term and consistent basis. And, you know, that is the results. This type of disrespect is the results. It's to see you would assume that you were working under the assumption that his disdain was limited to just people like your son. And you're upset now, not that he was going to disrespect your son for the rest of his life, but that he was going to disrespect you. It's like, oh, now it's a me issue. Now he's calling me the N-word, and, you know, it should be addressed. No, the political correct thing and the, you know, the censoring and the fear of being canceled does not work within the confines of a marriage. That's really more of a person's public persona thing. It's not individual concern. You know, he's not really worried about that in the same way that you would like, and it's not going to correct his behavior within the marriage, unfortunately. Last thing about the whole white people, and this is just on a complete aside, white people date out the least. When you are an overwhelming majority of a population, it's going to, everything is going to be the least as it pertains to interactions with other groups. For example, if 100% of Black people was to marry white people, it would show our interracial marriage rate at 100%, but it would show theirs at about 20 or 30% because it's so much more of them. So no matter what, Jermaine, it's always going to appear as if they do it lower, you know, because that's just the way the numbers are going to fall in that regard. But nevertheless, when they do a survey of desirability, Asian women are on the top of this. And it's not because they have a particular fetish. These are the same guys that, you know, talk about how much they love blondes and blue eyes and stuff like that. But it's simply because they are ethnic reputation of, you know, getting their children, getting their sons through Harvard. Of course, the guys are good. Who wouldn't want to sign up for something like that? Who wouldn't want to sign up for a tiger mom that makes sure all the kids go to Harvard? Like, I mean, come on now, let's be reasonable. You know, I mean, you know, while these Asian women are getting, you know, their sons are going to Penn State, Black sons are going to State Penn. Which one are you going to choose?
Yeah, no, chapter actually on the Asian minority and the dating divide. That was a whole chapter. And what you said, ethnic perception definitely does play a role. I'll leave it at that. That's a whole other topic. So, well, thank you.
No, I was saying that I totally understand that wasn't the point of my conversation. What I was saying in the first place, but you know, along with them being the highest population, they do have the most access to most races. So you have to put that as part of the equation as well too. And you know, last thing I wanted to say was that. Sorry, I forgot what I want to say. That's it.
Okay, all good. Thank you, Jermaine. Thank you, Gamechanger. I know Kevin C, Chaos Rain, if you guys have any final points you want to add before I wrap this up. And then also, real quick, shout out to you, Christian, with the 5. It says Black culture devalues marriage because its values are not realized a decade or more into the endeavor. So many things can happen, so we opt out. Yeah, that's a whole other conversation. But yes, I do agree that marriage, unfortunately, is not clearly it's not a huge value. At least I can speak from the perspective of the woman, largely because of the, you know, the feminist agenda that many have bought into. But anyways,
sorry, Shad. I remember what I was going to say. So, just as I was saying before, you know, Black men are the only unprotected group. So just think about that when you come into a confrontation with another Black man. We are everybody's whipping post. We are everybody's scapegoat. So when you're in a conversation, just understand that when you're talking to another Black man, to take that into mind. Unless it's defending yourself, just treat the brother a little bit better. He is kind of public enemy number 1. That's it. Go ahead.
All right. Thanks, Jermaine. Kevin C, what do you have?
Yeah, good conversation, good discussion. Thanks for bringing this to light. And I'll say that look, overall, at the end of the day, we kind of get caught up in the discussion of it and not really looking at the numbers, which is why I always emphasize that. And I'm glad that you do bring the statistics. It's not that there's going to be this major outpouring and of IR. I know it's going to happen, but again, I always look at it as most people are going to marry within their race, and if you do it, just do it in a way that's healthy. All of this thing where you're trying to really force yourself into a situation where you're not wanted, and then you're going to sit up here and make a video about and complain about it. Well, nobody's going to listen. Nobody's going to listen to the woman who's sitting up here crying about that she got passed around during a fraternity, hazing section initiation. No one's going to listen to you if you're a black woman and you're complaining about it when these guys are literally telling you what it is they are. So nobody wants to hear it, and you're just kind of dealing with what it is you get on that side when you do all of those things. So deal with that, and just deal with it in silence, and suck it up if you're going to do that. But yeah, we don't really want to hear the complaints. All right, we'll talk to you later.
All right,
have a good
thank you. All right, Chaos Rain, what do you have?
It's interesting how the swirlers feel they're entitled to call out what men on YouTube are saying about them, and knowing that they subject themselves as a concubine class. They're hoping and dreaming that the amount of screwing and getting on needs will be fulfilling enough to the non-black mates so they could put a ring on it or an actual relationship. And unfortunately, that's not what we see in present day or even the past. Mm-hmm. You're a concubine for a reason. European men don't have to work too hard just to get you. Even to the point, I know one woman on social media, she posted something that one dude that I think he's either Mexican or white and wanted to have a fling with her in the bedroom. And I told her personally, oh, that's what he said? I said, oh, good, delete him. He already came up front, tell you, say he wants to always have, plantation butt sex with you. So it was obvious. That was obvious. So you should not really entertain that. I mean, she laughed.
Wait, who did you call her?
Oh no, someone on social media that showed me a message. I don't know if it's a dating site. It's one of them sites, and then or it's probably down the DM. And the guy wanted to, have intercourse with her, and he said out of his mouth, "I never had intercourse with a black woman before." And I don't know if she laughed.
Why did she tell you that?
Yeah, that's
weird. She did not tell me that. This is what she posted, and I respond in a comment.
Why did she post that?
This to show that she's single and free, and at times she wants to, I guess, look for a certain person that she's attracted to, and this is what she get in her inbox. So she decided to share it. I don't know why she shared it. I didn't question that. Oh no, she shared it for a reason.
Well, right.
So I told her.
Important to question such things.
I just gave her a quick response.
The reason why it's important to question such things because I think that she's just doing that to aggravate you. I think that a lot of black women are doing.
No, she's aggravating me. She doing this on her own social media for the whole world to see.
Yeah, I know, and
so she's not aggravating
as part of the world.
And
as part of the world, black men will see it and get aggravated.
Exactly.
So I think that
I mean, black men
pay it no mind. It's a non-issue. Pay it no mind.
Yeah, exactly.
Just keep it pushing. At a certain point.
Yeah. So, but it's funny. It's funny, that she posts anyway. But the point is this: that that's what they see him. I'm just using that as an example. Now, regardless if she wants attention from the brothers, she doesn't have to work too hard because most dudes are going to smash and quick and dash anyway. She is pretty big, so obviously, having a non-black man tell us that I always want to make love to a black woman, it's like a compliment to a lot of sisters that are pretty big. So that's the only thing I want to share. Shay, you need to do more lives. I know you've been staying away from the live streams for some time now. I think the live streams really suit you the most. You got to figure some ways to squeeze in these live streams. At times, got to put yourself in the algorithm. Don't get me wrong, shorts uploads are fine, but really, it's in the live in effect. Trust me, it's a warning. Put thought to it. You know what I'm saying? I know YouTube changed the little policy, but don't be afraid. Don't run from it. Don't run. Embrace it.
All right, Chaos.
Go for say, oh really? I'm gonna still do my thing. All right, thank you.
Chaos. Okay. All right. Did you I don't know if I meant to do that. Okay. I don't know if Gamechanger added his last thoughts. I didn't mean to remove him. But anyways, I do have to wrap this up, guys. This was fun. Good conversation. Thank all of you guys on the panel for adding your perspective. Obviously, a lot to unpack. I don't pretend to have all of the answers. I certainly don't. I don't pretend to know how to solve all these problems. But I do like to have these conversations because I think ultimately, especially with regards to women, I don't know why there is so much blinders or so much supposed ignorance around this entire conversation. And if you're talking about romantic relationships in the USA and you are referring to Black women, then swirling has to be a part of the conversation. It just is, because a lot of Black women are interested in swirling, whether they admit it or not. So this is why I continue to bring it up, because I continue to see how lovely ladies are sometimes putting themselves in positions to be taken advantage of, because for whatever reason, they're, like I said, they're keeping their eyes shut. They're not being honest about the situation. They go in with all of these unrealistic expectations, and it can truthfully be dangerous. So again, my goal is that whatever you choose, whatever you do, that you would actually move with wisdom, and that you would choose based upon the person's character, the person's quality, the person's spirituality, like things that matter. Don't put white guys on a pedestal and then be surprised when they're humanized. And then don't demonize Black men and overlook somebody who could actually be good. Make sure that you are choosing based upon good things. And I think what a lot of these relationship discourse or conversations are showing us is that indeed there are ultimately a lot of women who I don't even think are ultimately prepared to be in a good relationship and don't know how to be, because water seeks its own level. And usually when you're healthy and when you have developed and cultivated healthy relationship skills, then you are going to be more attracted to healthy things. You're going to be more attracted to healthy environments. And if you continue to find yourselves in toxic scenarios and toxic situations, sometimes that is an indication of toxicity that might be in your own heart. So I think ultimately, if a woman really focuses on dealing with herself, dealing with first her who she is, her self-perception, her spirituality, where she is at. I've said this before, there is a lot of push, y'all know, the debate on the Black community, and if it's Black men's responsibility to save the Black community, or if it's Black women's. And I'm like, ultimately, only God can save these women, right? Only God can do that. A lot of these women, before they're even good for anybody, they have to first be good for themselves. They need spiritual transformation. They need to have a come to Jesus moment, literally get their spirits right, get their hearts right, learn really who they are, learn what femininity is like, learn the value of marriage, learn the value of relationships. It's like there has to be a complete cleansing and rejuvenation that needs to happen truthfully before these women, I think, are even good, even truly ready to be in relationships. And without that happening, then what we're going to continue to have is just relationships, broken relationships, conversations, more mess, more drama, because we're not really getting to the root. So this stuff will continue to happen if women aren't honest with themselves about what's going on, if they're not letting other women know about this world, about the relationship politics, about the perception. And then if they're not actually doing the work to make sure that they themselves are even ready and even offering something good to the relationship market. So a lot to do there, but ultimately, like I said, only God can save these women. Black men by themselves. Look, God already died on the cross. God already gave his life to redeem these women. We can't have men do that, right? Because God already did it. And if they're not willing to accept the sacrifice that God himself did, then we can't think that they're going to appreciate the sacrifice of these men. So this is where I think it's incredibly important to not only have these conversations, but get back to the root. A lot of these women, like I said, are just spiritually broken, therefore mentally broken, emotionally broken. And out of that brokenness, they are therefore attracted to toxic, broken relationships. Unless we deal with that spiritual brokenness, get that woman built up, get that her spirit back in order, and then go through the process of purification and go to the process of walking with God, maybe having accountability, going through spiritual, emotional healing, whatever that may be. unless that happens, then like I said, we're just going to continue to have what we have right now, which is a whole lot of mess. But those are my thoughts. Anyways, I appreciate you guys for hanging out. I know this is very last minute, but I didn't want to cover it off. Be sure to like, share, subscribe on the way out. Thank you for hanging out with me, and then stay tuned. I actually do think I have another live happening a little later on this week, but stay tuned. I haven't dropped the information yet. And yeah, like, share, subscribe. Y'all know the drill. And thank you so much for hanging out with me. We will talk later. Okay. Peace out.